James Boyd, you're not much of a gambler, correct?
No, and I'm glad I'm not, because last night hurt me. I'm devastated, KB.
Devastated from
My Cinderella.
Arkansas standpoint?
Yes,
Cinderella, the
yes.
slipper does not fit?
It does not fit. You know, I'm a John L. Davis guy, region kid.
Boy, he had some big buckets there
He
late.
did, but
He probably should have had the ball late, frankly.
I hear you, but I'm also like, foul when you're up 3 for the love of all things holy.
Cal doesn't take the time out either. If you want to get into that debate, certainly we've had that on the show. But I'm actually going to go to the nation's capital last night.
As
we
you should.
certainly talked a whole lot about Tyrese Halliburton being at the scores table at the end of Wednesday night. We should have known there was no chance in hell anyone else besides Halliburton was going to shoot the first shot last night. And you knew full well it was going to go in. The first bucket bet of last night's Pacers-Wizards game, we should have emptied the mortgage on Tyrese Halliburton. Set play, down screen, Halliburton 3, wet, and from then on, it was 159 more points. The Pacers set an NBA franchise record. Halliburton was Halliburton. What a night of not only just franchise records, frankly, NBA records by the Pacers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just get the Wizards out of the league. They're done. They looked a mess. Look, I will always watch the Pacers, no matter who they play, but my goodness, were they playing a team that is not interested in doing anything at the level of being a professional. That was a horrible basketball game to watch, mainly because I'm like, they just look like the JV team going up against, like, the old guard at the YMCA that plays at 6 in the morning and everyone knows how to shoot and play.
Man, JV might be giving them too much credit.
I mean, they were awful, just awful. Relegate them out of the league, dismiss them, banish them. Them in Charlotte, they disgust me more than any other NBA team. But as far as the Pacers go, I mean, what a bounce-back win. I mean, I told you the basketball gods are bandwagon fit. They don't care. So the Pacers win in that fashion. The Lakers, you saw they lost against the Bulls.
If you missed the Lakers-Bulls ending, it is one of the more heartbreaking endings you will see, especially in an NBA game. Like, I feel like it was – you remember Gonzaga-UCLA years ago when Morrison's crying? Yes. It had that vibe to it, minus the tears. I didn't see any tears on LeBron or anybody last night. But that was your finish up in the Windy City last night. 162 for the Pacers, 27 three-pointers. Those are both NBA franchise records for
Johnny Furphy, I think.
The Pacers. Furphy broke it there in the fourth. Number 24, 48 assists.
Ooh.
Like, of all the numbers last night, I mean, 162 probably speaks for itself. But when I see 48 assists, that's an assist every minute.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what's crazy?
Like, this is not isolation ball to the nth degree.
So if you tell me that, hey, the Pacers are going to have 48 assists, I would have thought Tyrese Halliburton continued his streak of double-doubles.
Nobody had double-digit assists, right?
But he didn't. It's just that everyone had like 5. So, I mean, you talk about team basketball, there you have it. I mean, that was definitely a bounce-back, feel-good win for the Pacers in the nation's capital. Now, granted, again, the Wizards aren't trying to win anything, but I don't care. Beat them down. My only gripe with the game, KB, was holding the ball for the final minute 30. No.
So how do you think basketball gods view that? Do you think they view it as that is respectful, we are clapping, or do they say, no, these opportunities don't grow on trees. You had a chance to further. They had a chance to what? They were 2-3 short of the NBA record. Is that correct?
I believe the record is like 29 by Boston, maybe, if I remember correctly. But
so you think the basketball gods look at it from a different, who cares about, sportsmanship and winning by 53 or 59? You have this opportunity, you play it out. That was hilarious that they started holding the ball 2 minutes ago.
Oh, my goodness. Just ridiculous. Like, what am I watching? Like, first of all, I'm serious about this. You paid a ticket as a fan to see them play basketball. Play.
Well, the Wizards fans were booing.
I know, because they wanted to see them go for the record. Play the freaking game. Play. They're all grown men. They get paid a ton of money. Unless the Wizards last night, they get paid a lot of money to go out there and stink it up. Beat them down.
Pacers play to their standard, not to their competition. That was emphatic last night. The competition will certainly increase tomorrow. It is at the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are not yet in resting mode. They continue to win, and they continue to play their guys. We'll see for how long. I think that's 8 o'clock down there in Oklahoma. We'll get you set today. Purdue and Houston, 10:09 approximate last night. I was doing the math. Our 2 late games last night, Purdue fans, brace yourself. The first game was supposed to start at 9:39, Duke, Arizona. Didn't start till 10:03. The second game, Arkansas, Texas Tech, was supposed to start at 10:09. Didn't start till 10:22. And remember, neither of those first games were close. Neither of those first games had fouls down the stretch. Neither of those first games had final minute reviews. So if we get a close Kentucky-Tennessee game, Purdue fans, Trey Kaufman-Wren or Caleb First, they aren't jumping in the air until about 10:40.
Doesn't matter how much do you love it. Because me, KB, I was up. I watched every game last night. Didn't go to bed till I didn't get home. I went and watched the game downtown at a bar at Kilroy's, and I didn't get home probably until after 1 o'clock in the morning. But for the love of the game. And it's a Friday night, so just stay up.
And that might have been our best game of the tournament. Arkansas, Texas Tech.
Oh, it was great. It got to the point where I was like, I can't leave. I have to watch this.
Arkansas's up 13 with 4:30 to go.
Yeah.
13 points with 4:30 to go, and it was a slow death. Was that our first overtime game of the tournament? Or was Maryland, I'm trying to think, was Maryland, Colorado State overtime, or was that the end of regulation?
No, that was the end of regulation. But I do know that kept some kind of streak alive of overtime games. I believe the last time the tournament didn't have an overtime game
in
was
tournament
1970. History. Yes.
So Cinderella is indeed out. Texas Tech wins. We will be guaranteed to have at least half of the
Foul
Elite Eight.
up 3.
As a 4 of the 8 at least will be from the SEC. Yeah, for those that missed it, the 3 last night from Texas Tech occurred with about 10 or 11 seconds to go in regulation. It was funny. I was actually listening to Kelvin Sampson's press conference yesterday, and he was asked about it. I feel like the older the coach, the more hesitant they are to foul up 3. He was adamant, you don't foul up 3 until it gets to 6 or 7 seconds.
I don't care. Math. Everything supports this.
You're not worried about Arkansas missing free throws like they had done just the prior.
Not really, because you get them. You got to get to the best free throw shooters. Execute this. John L. Davis is like 84%.
Yeah, James Adu had missed a free throw on the previous possession that could have stretched it to 4 or 5. Right. That was front end of 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And then coming down there, Texas Tech hits a 3. And both end of regulation, end of overtime, Arkansas gets off horrible shots both times. And they lose last night. So I think in our market, people rejoice because John Calipari is done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, like I said, controlled hate is my vibe. But still, I was just frustrated because I'm like, we're going to get to the press conference, and the first thing they're going to ask you is, why didn't you foul when you're up 3?
And he got both. He got the foul up 3 and then the no timeout.
And you know what? The no timeout scarred me from the Pacers game the other night. So I'm screaming at the TV, call it. And they did not. And it is what it is. But that's March. I will say I definitely enjoyed the end of the game. And to Texas Tech's credit, they kept their poise after. Remember, they got the rebound and then the clock stopped because of some clock issue. And I was like, oh, man, did they just get screwed in the biggest moment of the game? So honestly, the fact that we're not talking about that first is a good thing. So shout out to them for having that poise.
All week long, we talked about Alabama and BYU being the highest scoring game of the Sweet 16. Boy, did it live up to it. Alabama hits 25 threes. That is an NCAA tournament record. If somehow Purdue's All-American can play like Alabama's All-American from last night, we could be having the Boilers in the Elite Eight. Mark Sears hits 10 threes, 34 points for him. 25 three-pointers. They got up 51 threes in a 40-minute basketball game.
And they made 25 of them.
They scored 62 in the second half.
I mean, I was just waiting for the regression to set in. Like, oh, they're not going to shoot this well.
No, never did.
No, they shot the cover off the ball. My goodness. And you usually don't see NBA. You know what? Like I said, I was downtown watching the game, so I'm seeing the Pacers just lighted up from 3 on one screen. I'm seeing Alabama light up from 3.
We needed the Pacers to play Alabama last night.
And I was like, man, I don't know which shooting display is better. I'd probably lean towards Alabama because, again, you're not used to seeing college teams shoot that well. That was very impressive.
It's funny. I remember last year when they played UConn in the Final Four, I kept on saying that week. It didn't play out this way, but I'm like, Alabama's so crazy. They have, the ability to somehow stay with UConn. Now, it didn't play out that way. I think they stayed with them for 25 minutes or so, and then UConn was UConn. But, this is kind of Bama. I mean, to this extent, obviously, is a different stratosphere. I can't wait for that one tomorrow night. That'll be the late one, 8:49. Duke and Bama playing to go to the Final Four. We'll get Florida and Texas Tech in the first game. But as Purdue tweeted out yesterday from their men's basketball account, great memories are born from great opportunities.
I feel like they're going to set out on some crazy voyage.
Certainly that's a miracle line for
Yeah.
those, that have totally missed the boat on that movie, but cannot wait for tonight. We'll play some Kelvin Sampson audio upcoming. He was pretty complimentary of Purdue and Braden Smith, and get you set for tonight. Again, a 7.5-point underdog. Houston on a 15-game win streak, and 10 of those wins away from home. But I just can't wait for, really, I would say probably both games tonight at Lucas Oil Stadium. I probably like both games at Lucas Oil better than I like the other games. Tonight we got Auburn, Michigan, and Ole Miss, Michigan State. But I just think as a fan, this is what you wish for all season, James, of like, you get an opportunity in the Sweet 16. You get a week to bask in the glory of your team, still alive, one of 16. And I'm not going to act like Purdue's got this, golden opportunity. Certainly they're a 7.5-point underdog. But still, you have a chance. And again, a Houston team that there probably is a little bit of monkey on the back of like, hey, this is the round we've lost in each of the last
can
2
we break
years.
through?
The Final Four is in our home state. Again, can you apply some game pressure on them like Gonzaga did late in that game? But this is what you want. This is what you want as a college basketball fan. Your team to be playing on one of these nights. You've had a week to celebrate it, and now you've got this opportunity tonight.
Yeah, and I did see that there were a few Houston fans out yesterday. I saw a family of Houston fans actually out yesterday in all their Houston gear, and I was like, okay, somebody made the trip for them. I do think they'll be heavily outnumbered when it comes to the crowd here because of the proximity, but I expect it to be buzzing because of this opportunity. And honestly, these are the moments that you look back on. We're going to look back on these games, for better or worse, and be like, hey, remember when this guy made this shot at this moment? You kind of remember where you were. Like I said, the one I always kind of reference is when Carson Edwards went off against Virginia. I'll never forget watching that game at actually my AAU coach's house and like standing in front of the TV and screaming every time he made a three. So you live for those moments, those opportunities. And, as much as Purdue has had success, KB, you don't want to take these moments for granted because it's hard to get here.
Certainly. And this is why you schedule the Auburns, the Alabamas, the Texas A&Ms, the Ole Misses of the world. I mean, Purdue played a lot. I mean, they had a marquee non-conference schedule.
Didn't play High Point.
We'll see how
Duck and
prepared
smoke.
they are for Houston coming up tonight. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Kyle and Tally. Continue thoughts with Jeff and his mom. Should be back on Monday. We've got a ton to go over with you on this Friday. Greg Rexall will join us at 8. We'll get you set for Gamebridge Fieldhouse tomorrow as we crown 4 champions there in the boys basketball state finals. Thanks for closing out the week with us. A little bit of a rainy, I think more of the rain overnight here in what is supposed to be a pretty nice temperature day here in Indy. Thanks for closing out the week with us. Fan Morning Show right here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. It was an ode to opening day by the Indiana Pacers. They put up 162 last night in the nation's capital. That is NBA franchise record for the Pacers, as well as 27 three-pointers. They had 48 assists. James Boyd, I'm sitting there watching the game. I don't know if I've ever heard a quieter arena in my life. I thought, honestly, it was one of those COVID games. I thought they were going to have to pipe in some fake noise.
I told you about the time that I actually went to a game with no fans, right, in the NBA?
During COVID, I assume?
No. So I covered a game in Toronto. This was the 2021-2022 season, and a speaker caught on fire overhead, and maybe like Colin's face just lit up. This really happened. We smelled this burning, thing.
Hey, I do remember.
I told you that, right? Yeah. Long story
yeah.
short, speaker caught on fire overhead. They clear out like this whole section, then they paused the game and cleared out the entire stadium or arena rather. And they had the fire department come check all these things and make sure no other speakers were like, I guess, faulty. And they didn't kick the media out, so I just stayed. And they resumed the game like an hour later, gave them a warm-up period and everything. And they finished like pretty much 75% of that game with no fans.
Who cares if the speaker blows up on James Boyd, but we do care about Mrs. Jones in section.
It was crazy.
112.
Siakam was in that game for Toronto, future Pacer, and you could hear all the trash talk. It was glorious, KB.
The Pacers,
a guy shoots and you got somebody saying like, hell no. And I'm like, dang.
Pacers played to their standard last night. Rick Carlisle on the response from the Wednesday night loss.
It was. And very proud of him for bouncing back. Last night was rough. Was rough on everybody. And today we had a short meeting to turn the page and concentrate on these guys. Second night of back-to-backs, you never know what's going to happen exactly. But our ball movement was really good. Tyrese got us going with the threes. And, Lloyd showed a film this afternoon about spacing and the importance of being spaced properly, and that when we do that, we're very, very difficult to guard. And those things triggered us, and the ball was going in. And it's obviously fun to watch when you're coaching the team making all the shots, but there was a spirit of unselfishness, which is really what Indiana's about.
For our analytics nerds out there, it is the NBA's most efficient offensive game of the 21st century. What the Pacers did last night. Again, 162 off to take on the Thunder. I think a slightly different level of resistance from the Thunder coming up tomorrow night than the Wizards offered last night. All right, tonight inside of Lucas Oil Stadium, it is the Sweet 16 for the first time since Kelvin Sampson's last game at Indiana. He will see Matt Painter on the opposing sideline. Here is Kelvin Sampson earlier this week on Playing the Boilers.
I think the first time I coached against Purdue was mid-90s, late 95, 96, 97. But Gene Cady was the coach. And I remember Matt was his assistant. And then coached against Matt since he's been at Purdue. He's one of the best coaches in the game. His Purdue basketball is a great brand. Their consistency, their toughness. They've always played a basketball purist brand of basketball. So ton of respect for Matt, ton of respect for the Purdue program.
James, your biggest key tonight for the Boilers?
The others. Can Miles Colvin, can Cam Heide, can someone else just supplement the offense in case they do double Trey Kaufman-Renn or Braden Smith and they, bracket him on the perimeter? Other guys have to step up and make shots.
Yeah, they're going to suffocate. You would think Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, or at least attempt to. How those others continue to shoot it, and they did shoot it, I thought, fairly well in the opening weekend.
And also pound the glass. You got to rebound. Gang rebound together. I know it's been an Achilles heel all year, but you do not want to give this Houston team more chances at looks.
Again, getting you set for tonight, 7:39. It'll be Kentucky and Tennessee in that first game. Kentucky trying to beat Tennessee for a third time this season. No team in college basketball history has done that when the team has been top 10 every single meeting. That is what Tennessee is right now. The other region, top left in your bracket, you'll have Ole Miss, Michigan State get it started, Chris Beard and Tom Izzo, and then Bruce Pearl and Dusty May, the second game there in that south region from Atlanta. Last night, the first two games, pretty much blowouts. I would say when I saw Kevin Willard getting booed walking to the team bus at the start of the game, I felt like, boy, my Maryland Final Four pick, I think, is probably not going to work out here. Actually, it was a competitive game in the first half, and then Florida ran them out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's just loaded with talent. I thought that they, again, hung well, but at some point they just looked like the older, more experienced, and more balanced team. And so they're another team that I'm just like, how do they lose? I looked at Duke and I was like, how do they lose? And Florida looks just as good in my opinion.
Bama sets an NCAA tournament record with 25 threes. They score 113 in beating BYU. So we'll get Duke and Bama 8:49 coming up in that East region tomorrow night. And then Florida's opponent will be Texas Tech. They erase a 13-point deficit to John Calipari and the Razorbacks in the final 4.5 minutes. Felt for John L. Davis, James. He played so well, I thought, last night. He had some big shots for them throughout that game. He didn't get the ball late, and certainly a lot of people will be questioning John Calipari's decision not to foul up three. The three was made by Texas Tech with about 10 seconds to go in regulation, and then he also did not take a timeout either time, right? At the end of regulation or overtime.
Nope, and they suffered for it. Again, Cinderella over. I know you had to pay big money for the glass slipper, but I mean the pay was in. The due was in, KB. So I was hurt. I was screaming at the TV, and I was just like, my goodness, this is why I love and hate sports. Are you the guy after your team loses? Do you watch the highlights or do you just cut it off? Because I was just like, all right,
I'm done.
Get me out of this.
I'm done. If I were
now, if the team I want to win, I'm kicking my feet. I know how this movie ends. This is great. Oh,
yeah, Arkansas fan. There's no chance you're watching Grant McCaslin and JT Toppin talk to the media afterwards, yeah. Again,
shout out to John L. Davis, and the reason why, beyond just the region ties and me knowing him personally, he had his senior year of high school ended the tournament because of COVID. So to see him bounce back, continue to play, obviously, and get a chance to go to the Final Four with Florida Atlantic, make another Sweet 16 with Arkansas, hats off to you for making up for what you should have had as far as an opportunity to win a state championship. In high school, you got a chance to go out there and play for a national championship. Made it pretty far, so I'm happy for him. But also, I can't be mad at Texas Tech, man. Like they made the plays down the stretch, and it was an exciting game.
For many reasons, I'm glad Kylan is with us and not Mark this week. Probably most importantly because Mark would be making fun of my Reds. Deservedly so. I don't know if I can still blame David Bell for that execution. Yesterday in the 9th inning, the Reds blow it. Your opening day winners. I guess for the Cubs, it's not opening day, but they do win. Brewers lost the Yankees. White Sox won. How about that?
Yeah, shout out to the South Side.
On their way to 100 wins. Guardians and Cardinals as well. And again, women's Sweet 16 tomorrow. You'll get Notre Dame and TCU. That is 1 o'clock in the Sweet 16. Notre Dame trying to avenge one of their few losses during the regular season. And we'll continue to get you set for the state finals. Greg Rakestraw going to join us coming up on the other side. Plenty of reaction hoops-wise. Also, a little Colts conversation coming up in a few. Where is James Boyd off to this weekend? We'll hit on that. It's Kevin Bowe and James Boyd, Kylan Talley here. Rounding out the week. Thank you for spending it with us. Little overnight rain that you'll encounter here on your commute in on this Friday morning. Thank you for spending it with us. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Kylan Talley. Kylan, thank you all week long. Outstanding filling in for Mark Dykton. We greatly appreciate that.
I mean, she didn't have like big shoes to fill. Come on now.
Certainly not.
Yeah,
No. Certainly not. No clown shoes.
He's not even here to defend himself.
I told you, I kick a man while you're down. I kick a man while you ain't here either.
And I'm just glad that he's not here with that Reds effort yesterday.
He playing
Mark,
a lot of sounds for you.
Stay on vacation for a while down there. Purdue and Houston, we'll get you set for that. Kelvin Sampson, I'd say quite the NBA compliment for Braden Smith. We'll play that audio upcoming here in a few. James Boyd on a night where the Pacers set a NBA franchise record 162 on a night where they make 27 three-pointers. That is also a Pacers NBA franchise record. I thought we also saw the worst three-point shot I've ever seen.
Oh, this was hilarious. Tony Bradley, too much dip on the chip, man.
Tony Bradley in the corner. So corner three's what? How many feet? 20?
I think it's like
22
or something
22?
like that. I don't know. I know it's shorter, obviously.
Supposed to be the best three-point look,
and guys shoot better from
threes,
there. Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Tony, he got it, 14 feet there?
I mean, first of all,
It didn't even hit the side of the backboard. It hit behind the backboard.
Yeah, he shot it from the left corner, and it was way left because it went straight, basically out of bounds. And then you do the old check your hands, wipe your hands. Nah, brother.
Oh, he did it all. He did it all. And he kind of laughed, but wasn't sure if he should go all the way on the laugh. I mean, Quinn Buckner was just cackling. Denary tried to be a pro about it. He's like, well, Bradley did hit a three last week in Minnesota. Quinn wasn't having any of it.
No, and that's why I love Quinn. Oh, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much how I react to it.
I think your Buckner impression is so good.
Oh, you got to get it down deep in your soul because he's very passionate about the game. And I laughed at that shot. That was so funny. Like, there's been some funny moments with the Pacers. Like,
I mean, this has been the most entertaining month I can remember.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's been highs. Obviously, the other night you had a low there at the end. But what a just insane month of watching Pacers. Like, you have gotten your $19.99 worth it this month watching the Pacers and having to spend that on FanDuel.
Absolutely. But still, that doesn't avoid Quinn Buckner keeping it real and mentioning how bad of a shot that was. I also love his classic, like,
Kylan, I'm going to find
brick.
that audio and send that to you.
He's like, brick.
I don't know if it comes across without watching the Tony Bradley shot itself. Because usually Quinn's just yelling out, left, short. I'm like, didn't it go in? But the Tony Bradley corner three last night was absolutely
It's
epic.
just hilarious. Oh, my gosh. I mean, keep it real, Quinn. He's earned the right to keep it real. Hell of a career. He knows what a good shot looks like, and that was not one of them.
Kylan, check your email. I just sent you that.
But the funny thing about it, KB, is that it really didn't matter. I mean, my goodness. It's a funnier moment because they were up by so much, and he had the audacity to even take that shot. So I could not stop laughing when I saw it, and I've done it. We've all done it. You do the classic hand rub. Oh man, something on the ball. I'm a little sweaty. Nope, you just shot a shot you probably should never shoot.
I was like waiting for him to go over and get the LeBron powder off the sideline.
Yeah, he actually shot another one after that and missed, but at least he hit the rim that time.
27 threes for the Pacers last night. It was Johnny Furphy who set the franchise record with a 24th. And I don't want to make too much of the game itself because it's the Wizards, but that was a damn impressive start. I mean, for Halliburton to respond, like, that's how you want your star to respond. He could have hung the head a little bit. He could have pouted after the game. And I thought Wednesday, I mean, he did take the high road. And there are a lot of stars in this league that I don't think would have done that. And then for him to come back the very next night and to have, I mean, that was a great Halliburton game. I know he didn't play in the fourth quarter, so statistically it's not 35 and 12.
Yeah, he didn't keep the streak going, so I'm giving him a C+. I'm a harsh grader.
But his start, I mean, he hit one where I swear he stepped in from the logo there late first quarter. I think his 4-3 might have been that one.
His
but he
first
was
half
outstanding.
I was like, wow, okay, he's feeling it. And again, I have pushed for this. I truly believe he can make an All-NBA team.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. And well, he'll beat the 65 games, right?
He'll beat the 65 games. Now, I say this also because certain guys aren't eligible for it. Like Luka is not eligible, missed too many games. Wemby's not eligible, he missed too many games. There might be some other ones I'm missing as far as being on the borderline, but he's in that conversation. I believe like Devin Booker can't make it. Not that he probably would, considering how Phoenix is playing, but there's a couple like perennial all-stars who will not be on that list of all-NBA players. And I think that this last stretch, this last month, since like the All-Star break, he has played some of the most efficient basketball you will see from the point guard position. So I know it's kind of weird to make an all-NBA team and not make the All-Star team, but that's what he's trending for, in my opinion.
Kylan, cue it up. Quinn Buckner on the Tony Bradley three-point attempt last night.
Two teams will face off in Indiana on April the 8th.
Wait, is this Buckner? This might be the other one.
No, you did.
Let me find the Buckner one. That was the Wizards broadcast. They were cackling just as much.
They should. They should.
That was so funny.
That was, I mean, Shaqtin' a fool. It was not a good shot.
Epic last night. Pacers get Oklahoma City coming up tomorrow night. Certainly. They do have at Denver still this season, so a couple marquee road games left.
No more back-to-backs, right?
One more, right?
Or is it one
more?
more?
No more traveling.
There you go.
Back-to-backs.
That's what
I
it
think
is.
that's what it is for the Pacers. All right, we'll get you set for tonight. Again, Purdue and Houston from Lucas Oil Stadium. I've always been a fan of how Matt Painter's operated from a non-conference schedule standpoint. And I think tonight is one of these games where you hope that your preparation in the non-conference, and let's be honest, I mean, Purdue got a bit outclassed against Auburn. I thought at times, I know the final score with A&M probably didn't indicate it, but I thought they were overmatched even with A&M. Now they did beat Bama at Mackey, but all of those types of opponents and seeing different styles, you hope that prepares you for this. Now, having said all of that, Houston is still Houston, and they are still in a different stratosphere. But I think if you are a Purdue fan and you're looking for some signs of, okay, why do you feel like this game can have some pretty competitive moments late? I think you do point to those non-conference games of you didn't just walk through a bunch of cupcakes in the non-conference and kind of, puffed your chest with a pretty soft schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you supplement some of your preparation for that game by not ducking, as I said earlier, any smoke throughout the season. So this is what you live for. It's what you prepare for. And I believe that Purdue will certainly not be surprised by anything that might happen tonight, which is a good thing because of the experience that they have just in previous, March Madness games, and also having, like you said, KB, built your schedule for, I would say, the long term versus we kind of criticize IU for it, building a weaker non-con schedule to maybe stack some wins and get in through a very easy route. So hopefully it pays off for them, and it certainly will get tested tonight.
Kylan says she has a crying, laughing Quinn Buckner.
I'm ready for it.
Do you have it, Kylan? Great work on this if you have it.
Bradley, he's going to shoot a three.
It must have slipped out of his hand because it hit the backboard and went to the backside. I'm sorry, Tony. You can't miss it like that.
Now, remember last week in Minnesota, he hit a three.
No, Chris. Nice try. Nice try.
No, Chris.
You can't hit it and have it go backwards. Go to the out-of-bounds line. Got to do better than that.
That might be my favorite part. I mean, the initial cackle, obviously, I love. Yeah. But Denary and again, I mean, no one defines a pro more than Chris Denary, my fourth grade basketball coach. But also, Quinn Buckner just right away say, "Don't give me any of that."
I think the player came out at him. He's like, "No, I used to play. I didn't shoot him like that." So,
and if you watch the bench, I mean, the bench
they're just dying
because it's
laughing.
right in front of the Pacers bench.
Yes.
It is literally the corner right in front of the Pacers bench. Just epic last night. That was a scoregami in the NBA. We've never had 162-109. I'm
shocked. I mean, at one point they were up 50. So my goodness, what a.
Well, they won by 53.
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't even think about the math on that, but
they held the ball for, was it 3 shot clock violations?
Yes, don't hold the ball, man. I'm like,
was it Quentin Jackson?
Yeah, you got Quentin Jackson just racking up turnovers. I don't know if it counts as a team turnover or individual turnover, but either way, I was disgusted by that. Pile it on. I am like the person, I remember when Kobe scored 62 and 3/4 back in the day. He ended up scoring 81 later on, so maybe he got the most out of it. I believe Klay Thompson's had some games where he's gotten really hot, and they take him out, and I'm like, no, go for 80. I believe, Klay Thompson scored maybe 60 and about 3/4. Actually, might have scored 60 against the Pacers.
Well, hell, he had one quarter against the Pacers.
Exactly,
where he
but I'm like, leave him in. I'm always pro history in those moments, and in that case, your starters aren't out there. I mean, let Quentin Jackson get some shots up.
A little bit of irony tonight on the sidelines. Kelvin Sampson's last game at Indiana was against Matt Painter. I remember kind of vividly those couple of weeks there. Obviously, IU fans don't want to remember it, but I was actually at the Wisconsin game when Brian Butch banked in the 3 to beat IU. I mean, that was a great Indiana team, and those Purdue teams were baby boilers. That was Hummel, Scott Martin, Etwan Moore. I think they still had, Keaton Grant maybe still would have been on those teams. So they faced off 3 times, Matt Painter and Kelvin Sampson, in the Indiana-Purdue rivalry. And, that was a little bit of a lull in the series of, I think when they met up in Sampson's last game, at that point it was almost inevitable he was going to either get fired or suspended significantly. It was just a matter of how they would handle it. And you had gotten a ranked matchup with those two programs. And again, we hadn't had that necessarily, in the previous kind of 6-7 years of the rivalry there. So as you would expect, Kelvin Sampson wanted no part of any reflection on the Indiana aspect to his resume here this week. And, even Matt Painter, when asked about it, his memory was quite wild. He was like, yeah, I remember David T got 32 in a win in one of those games. But he talked specifically more about the games and not necessarily about Kelvin Sampson himself. I did thought Sampson had a really interesting NBA comp with Braden Smith. This was kind of a quote that stood out to me earlier this week. Kelvin Sampson referencing kind of some Team USA days in a couple of point guards that had long NBA careers. One will be a Hall of Famer in regards to Braden Smith.
Smith is such a really good passer, but he's not afraid to make the tough pass. I don't remember what year, but I was the head coach of a USA team, and my point guard was Chris Paul. And we were in the Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we were playing in the gold medal game against Puerto Rico, and their point guard was Jose Juan Barea, played in the NBA for a long time. And those 2 point guards were just elite at being nasty, a good kind of dirty, and tough, and just reeked of being winners. And Braden Smith reminds me a lot of that.
That's some high praise, James Boyd, in my opinion. You watch Braden Smith play. I could, Chris Paul and J.J. Barea are obviously, there's a gap between those two in terms of their NBA level of success. But, if you told me that, there was a little bit of, again, going to Paul is probably a bit idiotic, but a J.J. Barea type of career for Braden Smith, that wouldn't stun me.
Oh, J.J. Barea, is that the LeBron Slayer from when Rick Carlisle and them knocked him off in the finals?
Yeah, a little Mavs action there. Yeah, but maybe we should ask Rick about that.
It may be, but I would say on a more serious note, it definitely is possible, mainly because I didn't think Braden Smith would be this level of a shooter, and that's the one thing that has to translate to the next level. If he wants to have that long NBA career, it's, okay, you're a bit undersized. You got to be able to run the point guard show and distribute, which he can do. I don't think that'll be an issue at all. It's, can you make enough shots? And then also, can you not be a liability on defense? Because the part that, at least in Chris Paul, the comparison there is Chris Paul was an all-time great defender. So, quick hands, always tops in the league in steals, made a bunch of all NBA defensive teams. So that might be a little bit too much praise. However, J.J. Barea, I'm like, hey, like you said, if Braden Smith can carve that out, that's a hell of a career. And I also want to reek of winning.
I know. No one's ever said that about me.
I was like, whoo, that's a bar right there. I was like, take me to church, Kelvin Sampson.
I enjoy when you get these coaches that throw us down memory lane from an international standpoint. Bruce Weber did it with us a few weeks ago. Remember, we had Bruce Weber on, and he talked about the U19 team that he coached with Evan Mobley and Jalen Suggs and Jalen Green, and there was some other top 5 pick on that team, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
And
was it Cade?
Yeah, I think it was Cade. Yeah. Great memory. I think it was Cade Cunningham. And, I think back, there's that infamous picture of, it's like Jaden Ivey next to Zach Edey, Victor Wembanyama. I think it's Chet Holmgren.
Oof.
Celebrating like a team. They were the all, the all-star 5, if you will, from a U19 tournament. I'm like, boy, I love to watch a little highlight reel of 19-year-old J.J. Barea and 19-year-old Wake Forest Chris Paul going back and forth in Nova Scotia, as Kelvin Sampson recalls that. You think Braden or Kaufman-Renn? Obviously, you want both of them to play well, but who matters more to you tonight?
Ooh, who matters more? That's a really good question. I'm going to say Braden Smith because guards determine a lot in March. Yeah, he initiates it all. So if you cut the head of the snake off, I mean, if he's struggling, how do you even get the ball to Trey Kaufman? How do you help him get in a rhythm? So it always starts with your point guard, but I think Braden Smith has carried that responsibility very well throughout the years. And, again, we haven't had the Braden Smith game yet.
Yeah, I just can't see another clunker from him.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I can't see another clunker from him. If you want to point to, when he's faced elite point guards, lately, I thought both the Alabama games each of the last 2 years, he's been great against Mark Sears. So I think that's encouraging. And I have been a huge fan of C.J. Cox throughout this freshman season. I know statistically maybe I don't have much ammo to back that up, but boy, I think he's going to be critical tonight. Just another ball handler. You're going to have some late clock.
That's true.
Where some guys are probably going to catch some grenades, and they're going to have to make a play or two with it. I think he's going to be really, really critical for Purdue.
Absolutely. Like I said, you asked me earlier, what are the keys to victory? It is the others, and it always seems to be that way when you get to this point of the tournament. Obviously, you would love, so Mark Sears last night go off for Alabama, make 10 threes. Braden Smith makes 10 threes. Awesome. You're probably moving on if that happens, but more than likely, you'll need other guys to step up. So my sleeper guy is Miles Colvin. The athleticism, the shooting. I think those things could factor in when it comes to rebounding, defending, and making timely shots, and also throw Cam Heide in there as well, who, again, he just does stuff that is positive for the team. It might not be sexy. You might not even remember it that well, but then you'll look back on it and be like, you know what? He played pretty mistake-free basketball, which is what I've come to rely on Cam Heide for.
For our audience out there that wants to smile on this Friday morning, will you recap the John Calipari collapse in the final 4 minutes of the game last night? Up 13 with 4.5 to go.
Yeah, and then you don't foul when you're up 3, and I got the YouTube chat telling me, James, you can't coach. You're not a good coach because you don't foul, up 3 with only 10 seconds left. Well, you didn't foul, and it didn't work. So I would just like to say my way. I just want to see if my way worked. It did. I didn't get a chance to see that last night. And then they come down, no timeout on the final possession. Really get poor shots at the end of regulation and overtime. And Texas Tech moves on. So heartbroken for Cinderella. Her Louis Vuitton glass slipper was broken. All the NIL money we put into this.
Little Gucci handbag.
Yeah, exactly. I was very, very heartbroken. But, again, that was more of a personal thing.
Back to school for the Arkansas student athletes.
Exactly. Oh, could you imagine? If I'm John L. Davis, he's a better kid than me because I'd be like, class, what?
I hope they're front row at their 8 a.m. here in a few minutes.
Oh, not at all. I told you. And my personal rule in college is, one, if it started at 8 a.m., I'll be 5 minutes late because nothing started at 8 a.m. in college. And then 2, if the class is over an hour, I definitely was coming 5 minutes late because the first 5 minutes, you ain't doing nothing no way.
Wait. I'm confused. You said that you don't like when games start at 7:09,
right,
but you're okay with class starting at 8:05?
Well, no, the class starts at 8. I'm going to get there 8:05. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Yeah.
So don't wait for me. I'm going to be late.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm not asking you to wait for me at all. I'll walk in.
Thank you, Kylan, for chiming in there.
Thank you for that. You should just compare a basketball game that could be like a lifetime memory to like a class you're never going to remember.
Some people are attending class when they're watching these basketball games. Give them a time.
You know what, Kylan? I will say this. All the time I was on time in college at this time of the year was because I got there early to set up the laptop to watch the game. So if you got a game coming on at the same time, I'll be there early for that. But, again, I made it through. That's all I'm saying. I graduated. GPA was solid. Parents are proud. That's all that matters.
Purdue fans, brace yourself if you want to look at last night's games, the second game, and when they tipped versus when it was supposed to tip. That game ain't starting at 10:09.
Is there a way to bet this?
Duke, Arizona was supposed to start at 9:39. It started at 10:03.
Yeah.
Arkansas, Texas Tech was supposed to start at 10:09, and it tipped at 10:21. And remember, those first 2 games last night, James, BYU, Bama, Florida, Maryland, they didn't play the foul game late. They didn't do it wasn't close. Like, there was no need for fouls. There was no need for reviews, timeouts, any of that. So Yeah, Purdue, Houston. I mean, I'd be surprised if it tipped before 10:30.
Can we set the over-under at like 10:27 in 30 seconds?
Kylan, do you have a Twitter handle? Nick is chiming in asking if you have a Twitter handle.
I do. It's my full name, Kylan Talley.
And go ahead and spell that for our audience because I know it's.
Yeah, it's a new one. It's unique. KIELYNN. Kylan, and then Tally, TALLY.
Give Kylan a little follow here on this Friday morning. Coming up next,
Hey, yo.
Greg Rakestraw, the legend. No better way. He looks like he's at one of my favorite spots here on this Friday morning. We'll ask Rake about that. Get you set for the state finals coming up tomorrow inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. This is a Fan Morning Show rounding out the week on a Friday. Thanks for closing it out with us. 8 o'clock on a Friday, and you know what that means. A man that will be very, very busy coming up tomorrow, per usual. And he is also at one of my favorite places here on this Friday morning. I'm almost hesitant to say it out loud, but it, in all seriousness, deserves the credits. The Hidden Gym, the 9-hole golf course. I love walking 9 at the Great Buffer Park. Greg Rakestraw, are you teeing it up this morning?
No, for the benefit of the course, I am not. I actually have a speaking engagement this morning. I am a member of the West Side Chamber of Commerce, which focuses on Pike, Wayne, and Decatur Township. And obviously, if it wasn't for tree lines and 465, I could see Decatur Central High School from here. So, no, I am just being teased, staring at the putting green and what I assume is the first tee box. And this course, as you saw from the picture, it looks like it's May or June out here. The course is in phenomenal shape. So, yes, KB, you could sneak down here this afternoon and get 9 and still get back home to pick up the kids from school.
Gosh, Buffer Park is great. 5 is a 6, I believe, is an awesome par 3 kind of back there. Great people over there. Yeah, I love me. I love me some Buffer Park. What speaking engagement have you not done this week? I swear you've done at least 7 of them.
Well, yesterday I had a doubleheader. I hosted the Kiwanis Luncheon for the boys basketball state finals. Then I had a waiting driver outside so I could hop in the truck, speed down I-74, deal with Cincinnati Carb Day and get through the Sea of Humanity by Moorline and the Banks to then watch what was glorious for 8 2/3 innings against the San Francisco Giants yesterday.
Right. Well, 2 things. I can't believe you were there. We needed you to get the final out, honestly. And then 2, who has the great honor of being your driver? Your own personal driver?
I wouldn't say I had a driver. This is a buddy of mine who, well, somehow I said, hey, can you get us tickets? He got us tickets. And I said, hey, can you pick me up at Gamebridge Fieldhouse? And he said, yes. So apparently I must have done something right because that sounds kind of douchey, those 2 things I just said. So that would be Jason Hatfield that took care of the driving responsibilities to hustle us down to Great American Ballpark yesterday.
That is awesome.
The guy's always on the go, man.
Hey, as a man that has been fortunate to be in the car with Greg Rakestraw for 5 hours to and fro, I absolutely love that.
There you go.
And KB knows that normally I'm like, no, I'll drive. So this is the rare situation where I'm like, hey, listen, knowing that we are pressed for time, the run of show is that we're going to wrap at like 12:35. You never hit banquet timing. I think I walked off the dais at 12:50. So knowing that time was of the essence and that there were 43,000 people that had tickets and 430,000 people downtown Cincinnati that didn't have tickets, I'm like, all right, we're going to get this to the minute. So, forget me driving and parking downtown. I will take advantage of the key card I have in the building in which you're emanating from right now. I'll leave the car at the Radio 1 parking garage and then pick me up and let's go. And that's exactly how it played out.
That is efficiency right there. And that's what he does. I mean, this is Rake we're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one for you.
My parking performance was in honor of the Pacers' efficiency last night. I thought
that
it was the
true.
most efficient Cincinnati trip that I could have.
Here's one for you because I know you probably keep track of these things. 1, what games are you calling this weekend? And then 2, what will that mark for you, like number-wise? Like, is it number 13, 14 of the high school season? Like, have you kept track of how many you've called this year?
13 or 14 in the last 3 weeks.
I know.
So from a high school basketball standpoint, these are games 54 and 55 of my year. I have not added in all of the college basketball that I have done. I will do that at some point in time soon. What I can tell you is, answer your question, I'm doing the night sessions. I've got the 3A and 4A games at ihsaatv.org tomorrow night. This will be my 15th year of doing television for one of the 2 sessions for the boys basketball state finals.
We are lucky to have you, Greg Rakestraw, with 2 outstanding games I'm expecting coming up tomorrow night. 3A, South Bend St. Joe's, the high-scoring affair up there from South Bend, of course, and then Crispus Attucks, and 4A is Fishers and Jeffersonville. I want to go to 1A and 2A for a second, Rake. We just naturally haven't talked about those games as much. Kyle Netterup was on with us yesterday. He mentioned 4 first-time state title appearances for those 4 programs. If you're attending the morning session, what are you going to see?
Well, wear red and black. You'll blend in because that's the color combination for 3 of the 4 teams. You want to wear navy blue, then you know you're rocking the University Trailblazers gear. Let's start with the closest local program first, which is University. My guess would be there are still a lot of listeners to this show that go, I've heard of University. Where is it? So that would be 116th Street, just east of Michigan Road and 421. It is in Hamilton County. It is technically Carmel, but it's probably closer to downtown Zionsville than it is to Carmel. They have been good, seemingly, for their entire 20-ish years they have been in the IHSAA. They just have not made this run to get this deep in the tournament. And I know you guys touched on it earlier. Alan Henderson's son is a sophomore on this University team. As far as the other schools are concerned, these are the traditional kind of small town great stories you get in the morning session. Clinton Prairie had not won a sectional since 1982. They have been good for the better part of the last decade. Most years, Central Catholic has been the team that has gotten in their way. If not, it's their county or conference rivals, Carroll or Rossville, that has been in their way. They are led by Jake McGraw, who is the school's all-time leading scorer. Clinton Prairie's been around for 65 years, so that has some gravitas to it. He went over 2,000 points, and they have had the unique nature of maybe playing their games as close to home as anybody has had so far in the tournament. They played the first two rounds in their home county. The semi-state was at Lafayette Jeff, literally just up State Road 38 from Mulberry and Colfax and places like that. They're coached by Chad Peckinpah, whose dad was the longtime head coach at McCutcheon. And so you see a lot of zone from Clinton Prairie, and they're very good at it. Not to mention there's just a great offensive team. They'll play an Orleans team led by Tom Bradley. Tom's got over 400 wins. Orleans has been really good for a long time. But what we say about the Hamilton County sectional here, you would say about the 1A sectional in the Washington area. And Orleans has kind of been in with that group for the last decade or so, where they've been in with Bar Reeve and Lagodi and North Davies most years. And usually whoever wins that sectional is the team we're talking about playing in the 1A state finals. So they got out of that group this year, beat two really good teams last week in terms of Hauser and Clay City. Clay City were probably the favorites coming out of Seymour. It was Orleans that got the job done. That should be a fantastic game. And then the story in Manchester, they are led by Gavin Betton. Gavin is not just the leading scorer in the history of Manchester High School. He is the leading scorer in the history of Wabash County. He has over 2,000 career points as well. He's going to play at Grace next year. They've got a 1,000-point scorer that goes with him as well. The Squires, and how about that for a nickname? The Squires have not won a sectional since 1995. So, again, it's a common theme of the morning session. Teams that, again, have been good but have been knocking the door for quite some time, finally busted open this year and made it all the way down or all the way up, depending on your perspective, to Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
You got the GOAT, Rich Nye, with you coming up tomorrow night?
I do.
Let's
Absolutely.
go.
I
love me some Rich Nye.
Games with me, and then Rich has the sidelines.
Excellent broadcast crew here.
So obviously we know, Rake, that Fishers is chasing history, but Jeffersonville's a really good team. How much of a chance do you give them in this matchup, which will be the nightcap over at Gamebridge?
They got a good chance. I mean, Fishers is clearly the favorite, but if there is a team that is somewhat built like them, it would be Jeffersonville. I said this as part of the program yesterday. Fishers is maybe the best high school passing team I have ever seen. When I had them at the sectional, and I got to go back and make sure I update this, from what they did in the last couple of weeks, they were averaging just shy of 21 assists a game in a 32-minute game. Again, the way they move, the way they space, the way they shoot, that is the way you're supposed to play the modern game. Well, the team that comes closest to replicating that in terms of spacing and movement, and maybe they don't shoot as many threes, but they're successful when they do, would be Jeffersonville. And for Jeffersonville, it's because they've got a tremendous passing big man in Trey Singleton. When your 5 leads you in assists, that's on a per-game basis because he missed the good chunk of the first 2 months of the season because of a foot injury. But when your best passer is your center, that's a sign. But the Baker kid who's the center for Fishers, 20 years ago, and if he's an inch or two taller, he'd be playing at Princeton because he'd be the perfect kind of pivot that would play with his back to the basket 20 feet from it. He would be that guy. And so I think, again, efficiency, beauty of the game, it's easy to be a neutral fan and go enjoy any of those 4 games tomorrow, but especially the 2 evening games. the pace of the 3A game and the intricacy of the way teams will move the basketball in the 4A game should be a sight to behold.
And I respect how Jeffersonville is scheduled this year. It seems like they're kind of equipped to handle this challenge coming up on Saturday night. Greg Rakeshaw's got you covered 3A and 4A. Rake, for Purdue to be standing and playing on Sunday, they need what tonight?
They need a loud and raucous, home court environment, which they should have. I still think Kentucky will have the biggest fan base of anybody downtown because that's just what Kentucky does, and Tennessee will bring a lot of folks. When I was downtown last night, saw a lot of orange kind of walking the streets of downtown Indianapolis. But simply put, Purdue's got to be tough. And that's normally not a question for this group. But again, defensively, it's not what they hang their hat on. This is more of an offensively skilled team, and defense can be kind of intermittent. A lot of us may not like Kelvin Sampson. You don't question how tough his basketball teams are or how hard they play. And so Purdue has to match the toughness of Houston to have a chance to win tonight.
Rake, we are giving away 2 4-packs to the Indy 11 home opener coming up tomorrow night. Our trivia question right now, fast fingers, name the Pacer player that hit the franchise record 3 last night. It was 3, number 24 in the game. I don't think his country is that great at soccer.
The women's team is good. The men's team is kind of like the U.S. Decent, not spectacular.
Of course, Rake is just all over it.
He does. I mean, I don't know. Him and Chap, they both have encyclopedias for brains, and I mean that in the kindest way possible.
Oh, it is absolutely.
Well, that's because between Chap and I, we've seen about 65 years of Colts football at this point. So,
Rake, the weather fortunately is not ready for this, but I think the 9th green sledding down that hill would be excellent at Buffer Park. Maybe you can bring out the slip and slide for that here on this Friday morning. Enjoy one of the hidden gems in our city, and we'll be watching tomorrow night.
Thanks, fellas. JB, you coming to the games tomorrow?
I think I will. I think you and Kyle have kind of convinced me. I've never actually gone to a state final as a fan in person, so I will either be going in person or buying the online subscription to watch the game. So either way, I'll be
to watch
in.
you, Rake.
Yeah, pretty much. Listen.
Not that I'm trying to discourage you from giving some money to the IHSAA because that happens in either of those offers. But I'm pretty sure if you got a hold of Jason Willie, you could get a credential and sit courtside for tomorrow. Just saying.
This is true. And I know Jason really well. I could be next to Kyle Neddenrep and bugging him during the state finals. But people tell me this all the time, real quick, Rake, oh, you should just tell the AD you're coming to the school. I'd rather just pay, honestly. Give it back to the community and, what they've done for me. So either way, I'll probably see you tomorrow.
There you go. Sounds good. See you, fellas.
Thanks, Rake. $15, by the way, for the sessions coming up tomorrow morning.
And then $20, I believe, to just stream all the games.
And evening, yeah, IHSATV.org. I think if Rake is still listening somehow, correct me on that, but I think it's IHSATV.org. You are off to Florida on on Sunday for owners meetings, correct?
Yes, I will be flying. I think I land at like 2:30 or something like that. I don't know if any games will be going on that soon, but I'm hoping. I always choose my flights.
Usually do, I guess for Purdue fans out there, I know it's very premature to even say this, but if you are to advance, I want to say they do like a 2:30 and a 5 on Sunday.
Exactly. So, I mean, I might be the crazy guy who lands and then just immediately finds the bar at the airport and watches the game.
Oh, I did that when I landed for the national title. It was Bills-Ravens playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, right? So I usually pick the early flights for that reason, to try to get in, get settled, and hopefully, get the sports on the TV pretty soon.
Maybe we'll do this here coming up at 8:30. Did you see it's out, the win-loss over-unders for NFL teams for this coming season?
I have seen that, and the Colts one was a definite talking point.
I want to throw that your way coming up here. Just a lay of the land for our audience out there that is not – you have been to how many owners meetings?
This will be my second one, I believe.
So okay, I've been to a couple. Just a little lay of the land for our audience out there that has never been, and exactly what coverage will look like for you down there.
So usually I'll get in that Sunday. I believe we'll be talking to Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard on the following Monday. Part of it is you stay at a hotel that is not expensive as theirs. And I usually Uber over, and we meet with them both on and off the record about, things regarding the team. So
do they still do the big coach breakfast?
Yeah, so that's the big one. They have like the NFC breakfast and the AFC breakfast. I think the NFC breakfast is that Monday. AFC might be that Tuesday or something like that. They usually kind of stagger them. And they have a big room. All the coaches are kind of around. And it honestly gives you a chance to float around. So usually I'll stay off for all of Steichen, obviously. But when we get to, the AFC days, I might go, dibble and dabble and ask a few coaches, what they think of a certain player or, how do you develop a young quarterback? Hey, are you using VR to help, your young quarterback develop? Just different things around the league. And also, there's usually a chance to meet with Roger Goodell. He'll address some rule changes or anything going on with the league. I remember last year the hip drop tackle was a big talking point. I wrote a story about that. And so, and they also have, just one of the, I guess, blessings. I don't say it's to brag, but they usually have like a media / like executive dinner, like party. That's pretty cool. That's pretty fun. And I have to put on something that's a little more, dress up than this hoodie I have on right now and go mingle. And usually it's pretty informal. Like, you're not there to do interviews with like any of the people around, but you'll see Shane with his family or Ballard with his family. I don't bug them too much. And I usually see a bunch of my friends and we, eat and have a good time. And, there's usually free drinks for people there. I don't drink, but I have a good time just hanging out with my friends and seeing them from around the country.
I believe Mike Chappell said to John yesterday, not expecting to hear from Jim Irsay. Is that right?
No, as of right now, I have not heard that it is trending that way, meaning that he would talk. Obviously, that could change. But for now, just me personally, I'm probably preparing more for Ballard and Steichen.
So, again, we heard from Ballard a little bit just through the Colts Behind the Scenes series earlier this week. We played some audio for you there, but this will be the really only time we hear from Ballard until the pre-draft presser. Usually that's like a week before the draft. And then, obviously, we'll hear from them during the draft, Shane Steichen as well. So owners' meetings will get you set here upcoming for that one. Kylan, did we give away the tickets?
Yeah, well, we only have one that's been given away. The other one, they couldn't get the answer, unfortunately.
317-239-1070. Which Pacer player hit the three-pointer that was the franchise record from last night? The hint was this country's, thanks to Greg Rake Show, women's team, pretty good. Men's team, not so much at soccer. That is for the Indy 11 opening match coming up tomorrow night at 7. That was number 24, and they ended up with 27. I can't believe they held the ball at the end.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I wanted 33s.
Is Carlisle trying to win the Truster Award, the Mental Attitude Award here?
I don't know.
Come on.
But again, all that stuff goes out the window. You become a pro.
I think the Wizards would have even acknowledged, like, just go for it.
Yeah, my thing is that
the Wizards are trying to lose, right?
Yeah, they're trying to lose, but also they're paid professionals. Like, and I'm serious about this.
I would argue if some of them are after watching them last night.
I don't care. They're still getting a lot more money probably in a couple of days than we would get in a year. And that's not to be jealous. I'm just saying, you're paid to play basketball. Go out there and play. I mean, I might be on my soapbox right now, but I'm so serious about this, KB. Holding the ball at the end of the game is just dumb to me. Like, the fans paid money to come see you play for 48 minutes. And I get it, like, if there's 20 seconds left, whatever, dribble the clock out. But, like, with 2 minutes to go?
Yeah, the Pacers had 3 shot clock violations.
No, I'm not doing that. And I think Quentin Jackson, shout out to him for doing that. But, no, I would not have done that. But, again, I'm nitpicking here. When you score 162, I can't be too mad, right?
There were some wild finishes last night. Texas Tech, Arkansas being one of them. Arkansas blew a 13-point lead in the final 4.5 minutes. Certainly that's music to the ears of many people in this audience of John Calipari's season coming to a close. The Lakers-Bulls game was what LeBron had just some horrific gaffes in the last, 15 seconds.
And Pacers fans rejoice.
Of that game, Josh Giddey throws in a half quarter at the buzzer there. Kobe White hit a huge three. I mean, the Austin Reeves layup's kind of forgotten about with how that game unfolded. A lot to get to here on this morning check down. Kylan, tee us up. All right, let's start with tonight, actually. Purdue and Houston meeting at 10:09, very approximate. If it's anything like last night, it will be later than that. 7.5-point underdog. Here was Braden Smith yesterday on the challenge of the number 1 seed Cougars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with their bigs. I think their ball pressure is really good. I think they can corral the ball on ball screens, and they cause havoc. And then they got quick, athletic guards that are pressuring the ball. So, I mean, you're dealing with two tough defenders on you. I mean, for my case, coming off a ball screen or whatever whatever the read is. So, I mean, just that. And then when they're in the post, I mean, they got two big guys that are super athletic, and they're really good with their traps. So I think just for us, understanding that and just being simple with the ball, I think we'll be fine.
I'm circling the number 11. 11 threes, I think, are needed from the Boilers tonight.
I'm ready. I'm ready, KB.
Again, 10:09, the approximate tip, 7.5-point underdog, Purdue and Houston. Last night in the nation's capital, 162. It was a NBA franchise record for the Pacers. The 27 threes, also an NBA franchise record. 48 assists, the second most. Honestly, that is probably the most impressive number to me, the amount of sharing of that basketball. And nobody had double-digit assists, so not good for the Tyrese Halliburton double-double streak as he sat the entire fourth quarter. But tremendous balance, tremendous sharing of the ball, and I'm not going to make too much of a 48-minute effort against the Wizards, but that is much more of playing to the standard you define versus playing to the competition, which has been an issue for this team this season.
Well, it wasn't a 48-minute effort because they held the ball for the last minute 30, but for the purposes of bouncing back, I mean, yeah, that's a game that losing to the Lakers, that is, you don't want that to linger. It was definitely a dramatic loss, one that's a little bit of a gut punch. But you bounce back, you handle business. And, again, just for seeding-wise, you make sure that you're still kind of trending upward because you do want to get that home court advantage for the playoffs. So I thought that the Pacers responded really well and probably about as well as you could against a team that I think should be banished from the league.
League NBA Mental Attitude Award going to Rick Carlisle for the final 2 minutes last night. Speaking of last night, Sweet 16 rise. How about Alabama? 25 threes from the Crimson Tide. Mark Sears hit 10 of them. That game had the biggest over-under of any in the Sweet 16 round, and it easily eclipsed it. A 113 Bama put. I mean, hell, BYU scored what, 80, 90? I mean, they were up there. The other game last night in the early session, it was Florida running away from Maryland. There was a 2-point game at halftime, then Florida dominated the second half. Kevin Willard, is he taking the Villanova job? It's been one of the wilder handling of Kevin Willard has acted like he's John Wooden this week.
Yeah, it's weird. It definitely is weird. I don't know what I'm doing.
The man got booed walking out of the team hotel last night by his own fans.
Yeah.
To go to the game.
And maybe that's a bad omen going into it, KB?
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, well, there goes my Maryland Final Four pick. The other two games last night, really, I thought two pretty good. I thought the Duke-Arizona game was good. Shout out to Caleb Love. I know some volatility throughout his career. But Arizona hung in there. I don't know if they seriously threatened, but they hung in there. Cooper Flagg showed why he is going to be the number one pick. So that sets up Duke-Bama tomorrow. That is your second game, 8:49 from the East region. And then again, Texas Tech erases a 13-point deficit in the final 4.5 minutes. James Boyd, walk our audience through the final 15 seconds of regulation.
So you just want to twist the knife. You just want to see me in pain, KB. But really the last 4 minutes, blew a 13-point lead.
Yeah, it was a slow death, but at the same time, the final 15 seconds.
Yeah, up 3. You miss some free throws. They come down. You don't foul. They make a 3 to tie to basically give you the ball back with a few seconds to go, going into overtime, and you don't really get a good look.
And the foul would have been at like 11 seconds.
Yeah,
foul up 3.
Yeah, I'm still saying foul. I mean, trust your free throw shooters that you can get it done. But ultimately, you didn't, and you got I feel like you got the whole John Calipari experience. Start a little slow, bounce back, make a run, and then kind of end in really painful fashion, which has happened to him throughout his career. But overall, was it the best game of the tournament, KB?
It was certainly one of them. I think you can make the case that maybe it was a little bit of vibes of Mario Chalmers in that 2008 national title game with Calipari not fouling. Granted, much more time on the clock in this one than it was for that one. So again, tonight we'll get you set. Ole Miss, Michigan State. That's Chris Beard and Tom Izzo at 7:09. I kind of forget that game's even going on. The first game over at Lucas Oil, it is Big Blue Nation against the Sea of Orange. Certainly two fan bases that will probably have some choice words for each other. Pray for the security people on the concourse tonight. And then Auburn and Michigan at 9:39 and Purdue and Houston approximately at 10:09. Notre Dame TCU tomorrow, women's Sweet 16 at 1. Major League Baseball opening day yesterday. Because Mark's not here, I don't need to read off the scores.
I mean, you were talking a lot of stuff about how, 0 and 162 was still on the table for his team. How about yours?
Kylan, if you have access to the sound, Mark would probably love you to play like the Reds owner saying, "Where are you going to go?" Just so pathetic. Blowing in the ninth. Can I blame David Bell for that one as well?
I mean, you can. I mean, look, it's early, KB.
I mean, an opening day, go-ahead 3-run homer with Greg Rakestraw in the building with 2 outs.
I know. He made all that, effort to get there, and they just laid an egg like that late.
So freaking
Imagine the
pathetic.
drive back. Oof, painful.
So freaking pathetic. All right, coming up on the other side, what is that Colts win-loss over-under for the 2025 season? It certainly caught my eye. We'll hit on that and much more on tonight's Purdue and Houston in the Sweet 16. Thanks for rounding out the week with us. Kevin Bowe and James Boyd, Kylan Talley on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Bobby Riddell, Bobby Buckets from the Purdue Radio Network. Coming up at 9, Purdue fans, you still have 14 hours until tip.
I was about to see, getting your math right?
Gosh, that was very wrong. Yeah, like they won't even be warming up in 12 hours. Again, last night the games, they ended up tipping later than their approximate tip time, so expect that here. Coming up tonight, much more on that. Thought Kelvin Sampson actually had some complimentary words of the Purdue Boilermakers we'll share. Coming up here, I am living in such regret this morning. I cannot believe I did not bet Tyrese Halliburton first basket made last night. Like, that was a given.
Do you think so? I mean, he's also a very pass-first guy.
No, given. Rick Carlisle is not going to make that mistake twice. You bench your star player in the biggest moment of the game the previous night. You've got to cater to your star.
Yeah,
you're running a set play for him on the
fair.
first play of the game. And if you are a betting man or woman and you know that there is a set play being run for an individual to start that game, you lay the mortgage on it. And that is just a blatant missed opportunity, and I feel like an idiot.
Dang, you are really hard on yourself. I feel like
it was a layup. It was sitting right there for me.
Nah.
It was sitting on a platter, and I just ignored it. As soon as I saw the down screen for him, that was my first thought last night.
Fair, but also,
I said to
as
myself,
someone who does not bet and has seen people crumble under their bets, the moment you would have put that money down, KB, Rick Carlisle would have got a tingle.
As soon as the swish happened, I said, there is dinner at half liter for the Bowen family just evaporating.
Nope. As soon as you would have placed that bet, Rick Carlisle would have got a tingle in like the solar system, and he'd have been like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do a down screen for Halliburton, have somebody else fly off a screen, and he's gonna pass it.
Nope. You gotta cater to your star.
Not buying
you know
it.
how the NBA works. Come on now.
This is true. But I also know how Tyrese Halliburton works. I mean, again, this is a guy who
how about that first quarter
is
last
very
night?
efficient. Oh yes. Just immaculate play. And I'm hammering it. I'm on my soapbox. He's all NBA.
I thought
NBA.
how he responded last night is just – I just think he's wired in a way that you want. There's the right amount of, like, he wants the ball, but, like, he's not going to be a diva about it, which I think is, like, a very tough balance. In that, sometimes you just get guys that, they go a little bit overboard of, hey, the ball has to be in my hands at the end because I am the $200 million guy. And it's like, well, yes, but also there are times where the right basketball play does need to happen. For Halliburton, I thought he handled Wednesday night really, really well. I mean, there are some stars that I think would have got up there in front of the media and would have blown up a bit or made it a bigger deal. And then does that linger? Is there any carryover? Is there any hangover? Tyrese didn't play that card. And then he responds last night in an emphatic way. And I know he only played 3 quarters, but that was one of his better nights of the season.
Yeah, you know what? I actually don't mind either approach, whether it's Tyrese taking the high road, as we would call it, which usually has more traffic, and you got to be careful with your words and how you phrase things. But I also don't mind the players who, like, I'm thinking of Kobe Bryant. He would have came to that press conference and was like, get me the bleeping ball. And he would have been right.
Yeah, but not everybody's Kobe. A lot of people say that, and then they can't back it up.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but I could name a lot of players. I mean, I don't know how Reggie Miller would have reacted to that. Like, it's just different mentalities. People respond in different ways. And I think Tyrese's temperament is just what makes him a little bit more unique than the typical star. And also, I think that can sometimes be his Achilles heel, KB, because he's so unselfish and kind of like right play mentality, pretty forgiving. Sometimes I'm like, no, you need to go score. And so that is the gift and the curse of him being such an elite passer and also a pretty capable scorer as well. So as he continues to kind of pick and choose his spots, I thought as of late, he's chosen his spots a lot better. I know we had the games earlier this season where it was like, man, he only got six shot attempts up tonight. Where is he? Is he out there? Where now I think that he's calling his own number at a pretty good rate as well as keeping his teammates involved. And then last night was just truly it's what you want out of your team. You play Pacers basketball, to get with the cliches, but it was also just an anomaly. I mean, everyone playing that well against the Wizards team that, again, when the YouTube chat now, they're like, resurrect, Oven Hayes and Wes Unseld. And
the Mystics would have beaten the Wizards last night.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. And that's not even
Kevin Willard should go coach the Wizards.
I mean, for a lot of money, I'd probably accept it, but I cannot think of any place that's more unpleasant.
Well, Cooper Flagg, come on down. 48 assists for the Pacers last night. Passing, certainly a thing.
They had
of
so many,
beauty.
man. They had 48 minutes without playing the last two, whatever. So just a crazy explosion for them. And, shout out to Chappie. It's the most in the NBA franchise history, not ABA.
The ABA was what, 170 something, 172?
Yeah, 177, I believe, something like that. But if you all are curious, check Mike Chappell's Twitter page because he always has that info.
Shane Steichen at the Notre Dame Pro Day yesterday. Notre Dame.
I got nervous.
Certainly. You got nervous?
I got nervous. I was like, I better not be seeing any Riley Leonard talk, chatter leaking out.
Oh.
No.
Well, Notre Dame is far more accomplished draft prospects than Riley Leonard.
I'm just making sure. But no, I don't know. Maybe some of they have some good defensive backs.
Yeah, and I think they have a tight end, Mitchell Evans, who has battled some injuries in his career. I think if the Colts double dip at tight end in the draft, Mitchell Evans on day 3,
right,
could be an option. Again, Xavier Watson, Ben Morrison are their two most talked about draft prospects, both defensive backs. Again, the DB need I don't think is as urgent as it was, certainly at the start of free agency. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. I do think Jack Kaiser could be kind of a day 3 special teamer, and linebacker is something that's a bit up in the air. I was surprised to see their over/under at 6.5 wins.
Yeah, that did surprise me because I was like, wow, I thought, the QB play is to be TBD, to be determined. That may not have improved, but I think they've gotten a lot better defensively on paper.
Like, I would take the over, and boy, this is a premature March 28th statement. I would take the over in a heartbeat.
I would, because that's the thing. They haven't really been that bad. Like, they haven't been like a 5 or 6 win. There was that one year where they bottomed out.
6-11?
I really can't. I think that they're a little too talented for that. That's
the home
why
schedule is, I would argue, is one of the easier I've seen. I get the road schedule you do have. I think a little bit of resistance there, but 6-11 in the AFC South?
I don't see it happening, mainly because they're in a weak division.
You'd be firing everybody, right?
Well, yeah. Everybody got to go after that. If they don't have you could still be in the purgatory of 8 and 9. Do you bring people back? Do you get rid of them?
No.
But if you go 6-11, it's over. Everything must go. I am putting, the stickers on people. It's like I'm at a Hobby Lobby and I'm going shopping with my mama and there's stuff on sale. Everything must go.
Boy, Hobby Lobby is such a great store.
It is. You can go in there and get anything.
I think I should go in there for Mother's Day.
You'll probably find something. My mom loves it. My sister loves it. And I'm just like, get me out of here.
Colts 6.5, Texans 9.5, Jags 7, Titans 5.5. Those are the over/under on win totals. I was stunned.
They're a game better than the Titans? Really? I don't know about that.
Well, how about the Jags being better than that? I was stunned to see the Patriots at 7.5.
Stephon Diggs mean that much? I don't know.
I guess a full year of Drake May.
Can you still take that bet right now? I probably would take that bet right now. Take the over for the Pacers. Not Pacers. I'm sorry, for the Colts, because the thing they're chasing is, can we get the extra 2 to 3 wins to get in the playoffs versus just bottoming out? Like, it would have to be disastrous at quarterback for them not to be, because they're still going to be a run-heavy team.
Well, I would argue you would need, like, Taylor season-ending injury, Buckner season, like, you would need some other stuff around that. Like, I just think, even with the quarterback play they had last year.
That's what I'm saying.
And
even the Gardner Minshew year, they still were able to kind of, they're just not going to be that bad. It's just, can you be good? And that's the conversation. KB, every conversation I have regarding the Colts, whether it's on air, off air, in person, with my friends, at the gym, whatever, people are like, are we actually going to be, like, good? Or just like, typical Colts season. We're right there. We might sneak in, or we might miss out, but, like, we're kind of just in that.
They are, 14.
Yeah, we're in that purgatory of not being good enough for real success.
Yeah, that's a different argument. This one to me, when I see 6.5, I would say the over on that. What does Kelvin Sampson think of tonight's and the Boilers? He did have some complimentary words about Matt Painter's bunch. We'll share those coming up and get you set. Final hour of the week approaching. Sweet 16 Friday right here in the Circle City. Thanks for spending it with us. Bobby Riddell, Purdue Radio Network. Coming up in a few, Kelvin Sampson with some nice words about the Purdue program. Play that for you in a bit. You rather play at noon or you rather play at 10:30?
Ooh.
Purdue's at both, right?
I go noon. Because I feel like
Picture 21-year-old you. Would you say that as well?
probably, honestly. Good night's sleep, get up, get moving, get ready to play. Because I feel like if it's late at night, naturally I'm going to want to like kind of wind down. So I have to get like a pregame nap in, and the schedule might not be as what it's been. And even throughout the Big Ten season, you usually have some of those earlier tips. So I go early, but again, you get what you get at this point, and no one's complaining about, playing in Sweet 16, that's for certain.
If I'm going to lose, I want to play late at night. If I'm going to win, I want to play early.
What kind of answer is that? Pick a side, man.
It's one of the stupidest answers you could have out there. How do you like my crowd split for tonight?
Throw it at me again. I believe you gave it to me.
I think it's about 35,000. I remember when the regional was here in 2014. I want to say that Louisville, Kentucky game had 41,000. I think 50% Big Blue Nation, 30% Mackey South, 20% Orange, and boy, there's part of me that's underselling Tennessee. And then 10% Houston. I mean, you remember what Tennessee did to the Horseshoe in that first playoff game?
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I get it's Tennessee football, but I thought
they're a bigger brand than I thought, honestly.
Has Tennessee made a Final Four in basketball?
I'm actually not sure. I know obviously women's side they have, but I have no idea about the men's. I would probably go
more Purdue fans than just 30%.
I'd probably bump a little bit, give them like 35, not too much, because I know Big Blue Nation is like a national brand. They're gonna travel really well. But it should be like feeling. You should have a home-esque feel to this game.
Tennessee Elite Eight with Bruce Pearl, and then Elite Eight obviously last year when they lost to Purdue. And that drive, I mean, I've made that drive. It's not too bad. 5 and change.
No, it's not bad.
From Knoxville.
I mean, I drive to Nashville every year from here, so that's not a bad drive either.
Boy, you're gonna see some ugliness though with those Tennessee and Kentucky fans. Behavior. You won't see Rick Carlisle mental attitude award winner holding the ball.
Nah. I hate you. You hate me. Yo mama. Yeah, yo mama. That's what we on.
Like I feel like we haven't had a good like fan fight video in a while. We're gonna get a couple tonight.
That's always so dumb. I'm like, all right. You know what the crazy part about fighting to me, besides just doing it, is you're not in high school anymore. Like you have like real consequences. There is no suspension. You go home for a couple of days. You're grounded. Like you're gonna get arrested, dude. This could go on your record. So whenever I see those fans do that, it's like, oh, you might like win this little battle or this war of words or hands and feet, and then you got to go. And then you got to go to court.
Shoulders, knees, and
I
toes.
mean, yeah, man. Look, a beatdown is a beatdown. So I'm hoping there's none of that because that's always just so stupid to me. And I feel like when anybody who gets involved in those incidents, like sobers up at some point, and they're like, you know what, that was a really dumb decision.
Hey, the SEC, it's a different animal.
That's
You'll
true.
have at least 4 from the SEC.
I was going to say at least 4 fights, and I was like, dang.
In the Sweet 16, we'll see about Auburn. We'll see about Ole Miss tonight. Kylan, cue this up. Kelvin Sampson earlier this week on facing the Boilers.
I think the first time I coached against Purdue was mid-90s, late 95, 96, 97. But Gene Katie was the coach. And I remember Matt was his assistant. And then coached against Matt since he's been at Purdue. He's one of the best coaches in the game. Purdue basketball is a great brand. You know, their consistency, their toughness. They've always played a basketball purist brand of basketball. So ton of respect for Matt, ton of respect for the Purdue program.
Some nice words from Kelvin Sampson, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it was cool to kind of see him go down memory lane a bit, and we see the program go from when he said he first faced in the 90s to what they are now. And, I mean, Purdue, they are the standard in this state, at least for as far as men's basketball goes. And I would expect nothing less from Kelvin Sampson there, also because he also coached in the state as well. So,
yeah, Houston, they haven't portaled it up as much as maybe some of the others. Obviously, they're not Purdue.
Right.
LJ Cryer, their best player is a Baylor transfer, but they haven't been just living and dying in the portal like some of these other teams. that you're seeing. I know we talked about it earlier, but I was reminded about that infamous February when Kelvin Sampson was in Bloomington. And, when you think about where Indiana and Purdue were at as a program, in 2000, whatever that would have been, 2006, 2007, both of them were kind of at, a bit of inflection points of kind of, okay, where you're at. You kind of tapered off the end of the Katie, the end of the night eras. You got both of those teams ranked in that final year that Sampson was in Bloomington. Obviously, you've got the Eric Gordon presence as a freshman. Certainly the baby Boilers. They were getting their start, and they had already made a strong early impression. I don't know if you play the what-if game, but it is just kind of wild to think back on that. That was, 2007, fall of 7, spring of 08 probably, or whatever that would – that's 15, 17 years ago.
Dang.
And now here they are facing off in the Sweet 16. Matt Painter has had a pretty smooth ride, I would argue.
Yeah.
Since then, and Kelvin Sampson's ride has been pretty bumpy since then. And I think you make any list of the best college basketball coaches, there's no way you put 5 names on the list that aren't Sampson and Painter.
No, I think their resumes speak for themselves, and obviously no love lost here for Kelvin Sampson. But what he's done at Houston, turning them into a perennial powerhouse, hats off to him. But this should be a really fun game tonight, I believe. You're certainly going to see some high-level basketball, but as I said earlier, Braden Smith, need you to be Braden Smith, first-team All-American, Big Ten Player of the Year, flex those muscles a little bit, and then the others, can someone else step up besides Braden and Trey Kaufman-Renn? And, who wouldn't mind a Fletcher Lawyer heater tonight to kind of get you going? So
11 threes.
11 what? He's going to make 11 threes? Or
No, team-wise.
Oh, yeah.
3 from Lawyer, 3 from Braden. There's 6.
I was like, I said heater, but my God. I was like, you want to burn the place down?
How many did Mark Sears hit last night?
Yeah, he hit 10, so I guess you're not too far off there.
I think that was the second most in tournament history. Yeah, can you get to that 11 number? Again, okay, let's say you get 5 from Braden and Lawyer. Does Cox hit one for you? Does Colton hit one for you? Does Heidi hit one for you? Does Jakari Harris hit one for you? Because I do think how Houston decides to defend Trey Kaufman-Renn, I don't think they're just going to single team Kaufman-Renn. I know UConn did that, last year in the title game with Edie, and said, we'll take our chances with Klingon and then, suffocate the 3-point line. I'll be very curious how Houston decides to defend that aspect to it.
Absolutely. What would you do if you were them?
I think there is part of me that would rely on our big dudes in single team Kaufman-Renn. I'd be very nervous about the 11 or 12 threes.
Yeah.
And those role guys, as much as this is a Sweet 16, it's a football stadium, et cetera, it's a different environment. The role dudes have shot it decently well here lately.
They have.
And Lawyer and Braden Smith haven't had the heater, which those guys have the heater in
it's
them.
Possible.
So I would probably single team Kaufman-Renn, say, all right, our grown men are not McNeese and High Point.
Yeah. Can
you still be your highly efficient 20-10 self? And there is a little bit of Kaufman-Renn that it's he is just, it is a right hand dominant. Can you sit on that left shoulder and hope that he doesn't throw the shot put in, because he's also got a little bit of the shot put as well.
Can I throw this out there as well? Trey Kaufman-Renn, Purdue fans are probably begging you, don't get the second cheap foul.
Oh, boy.
Early. You've been able to play with some fire as of late.
And blocking out these dudes are a little different.
Yeah, but there's always that one over the back, pushing the back foul where I'm just you weren't going to get that rebound anyway. Why? So you can't afford that later today. But I'm excited about it. I know when KB keeps saying, Fletcher Lawyer, heater, I thought of, when I was covering high school football games and I kept some hot hands with me. Keep the hands warm.
Oh, hand warmers?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I love that.
I know. So I'm just thinking.
Bring me back to that Notre Dame-Indiana playoff game.
Exactly. So
I'm 3 layers deep there.
Hey, can we get a few more hot hands out there on the Purdue perimeter to knock down some shots?
Sticky hands and little giants, is that right?
I think so, yeah. You're really taking me back to my childhood now. That's funny. I hadn't thought about that in a while.
Coming up on the other side, Bobby Riddell, Purdue Radio Network. We'll chat with him, and it was a historic night for the Pacers in the nation's capital. We'll go over all the records they set. 9 o'clock hour, final hour of the Fan Morning Show this week. Thanks for closing it out with us. I feel like Purdue fans should set an alarm with that fight song about 10:15 tonight. Wake up from their siesta as they get ready for the Sweet 16. Boilers and Houston Cougars coming up tonight from Lucas Oil Stadium to talk more about that. He's a man you've heard on our airways a lot here in the month of March. Always enjoy our conversations. The great Bobby Riddell with us. Bobby, good Friday morning to you. Happy Sweet 16 Friday.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Yeah, definitely an exciting time to be back in the Sweet 16, and especially with the games being played here in Indianapolis this evening.
You believe in naps? You believe in coffee?
I believe in coffee for sure. I've never been a huge nap guy, but today I may have to break that.
Yeah, I was looking at the tip times last night. Just a warning shot here for Purdue fans. I believe the second game of Duke, Arizona started a half hour later than the approximate tip time, and Arkansas, Texas Tech was about 10 minutes later. And again, neither of those first games were in the foul mode or the review mode late. So just a warning shot. Bobby and Rob Blackman are going to have potentially a lot of airtime to fill here pregame. Bobby, let's start here. Biggest key to me is how Houston defends Trey Kaufman-Renn. Am I ignoring or not paying enough attention to the ball pressure on Braden Smith?
Well, I think both of those are huge keys as far as what you're going to see out of that Houston defense. They get really aggressive with their traps on the ball as far as, their ball screen defense, which referring to Braden Smith there, coming off those ball screens, you would expect them to attack him quite often. And then you're right, with Trey Kaufman-Renn, I can't see them allowing him to go one-on-one a ton either. I would think they're going to be pretty aggressive with their traps with him if he gets the ball on that low block area. So you're right, how both of those guys handle that pressure, I think is going to be massive keys, because if you can handle it and make that initial pass, you have a 4-on-3 situation that it's really going to be advantageous for you, and you can get some good, clean looks. But Houston's so good at using their size and athleticism to, pressure that ball handler, whoever's got it, and then, jump those passing lanes and then create turnovers going the other way.
Bobby, on the flip side, defensively for Purdue, we know that Houston can light it up from three. They're shooting 39.8% as a team. LJ Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp. How much has that been emphasized to just stay attached to these guys who can really knock down shots from the outside?
Yeah, emphasized in a big way for sure. It's interesting, right? Because they're the top 3-point percentage team in the country, and it's predominantly just those three starting guards, right? Uzan, Sharp, and Cryer, who are those main guys from a volume standpoint, getting up a ton of threes. They bring a couple guys off the bench that can make them here or there, but yeah, it's kind of wild how it's those three guys, and Purdue's going to have to stay attached to those guys from the jump. You cannot be allowing those guys to get early rhythm threes just because the way they're capable of shooting the ball. If they see some go in early, you could be in store for a really tough evening trying to defend those guys. And that's where, rebounding the basketball in the defensive end is going to be, paramount for Purdue in this game, because some of the best threes to take are those ones on offensive rebound kickouts. And those Houston bigs really like to use their athleticism and just kind of bat ball. If they can't get them initially, they'll at least try to bat them back out towards that 3-point line, towards the half-court area, keeping those extra possessions alive. And those Houston shooters are always out there lurking, waiting for some of those back taps to try to reload from three. And, all three of those guys are really good. Sharp, he's kind of been a guy that stood out to me when I've watched him here as of late. Early in his career, he really felt like kind of just a standstill guy from an offensive standpoint as far as what he did, what his strengths were, was just kind of a standstill elite knockdown shooter. But I feel like I've seen him put the ball on the floor in a more impressive fashion here as of late, using his body to get downhill. And so, all three of those guys can score at all three levels, and it's going to be a really tough task for Purdue, because Purdue's played some guards here as of late that can certainly score and get downhill, but they haven't really played a ton of guys lately, specifically in these first two rounds, that are, true three-level scorers that you fear at the level of the Houston guys, and Houston's got three of them. So the perimeter defense of Purdue is going to be extremely tested tonight.
To kind of piggyback off that a bit, do you think that's helpful for Purdue to having already played some pretty stiff non-con competition. Some teams that get up and down. Alabama comes to mind, other teams like that.
Yeah, Auburn, A&M.
For sure. I mean, I hope some of that stuff comes to fruition for Purdue because we have tested ourselves this year. Marquette had some really good guards. We've played a ton of teams that got guys that are elite perimeter players and just teams that, defend similarly to Houston, have some of the athleticism. We've played a lot of teams, just specifically Braden, Trey and Fletch, like those guys have played teams like that a ton over the last 3 years. And so you hope that experience pays dividends tonight. But tonight's probably going to be the toughest task of all those, sort of matchups, just because Houston defensively, at least, is the cream of the crop.
And Bobby Riddell with us here, him and Rob Blackman. Bobby, you guys are starting at what time tonight? 9?
Yeah, I think 9 is going to be start of the pregame show. And
boy,
you're right.
Hope you're reaching into the archives for some old interviews to get us the tip.
No kidding. It's going to be, like you said, I saw when some of those games were starting, the second games were starting last night. And so, yep, I was realizing that we're probably going to be in a situation where the pregame show maybe is closer to 90 minutes than 60.
Pace-wise for tonight, Houston plays incredibly slow. Purdue actually hasn't, for as good of an offensive team, typically I feel like those teams kind of get out in the open floor and they run a lot. That really hasn't been Purdue's MO necessarily, like tempo-wise. Would it benefit Purdue, though, to try and look for more of those opportunities and not play against a Houston set defense? I guess either play off of that or play off of, does a game in the 80s benefit Purdue or Houston more?
Well, I think Purdue wants to try to run as much as possible, no matter what. And I do think, like you said, the pace maybe doesn't necessarily, the pace of play stats maybe don't necessarily scream that. But Purdue, barring, those typical time and score kind of situations like, McNeese, for example, we had a big lead. And so we weren't trying to push the pace a ton in that second half as we're trying to run clock with the lead. But, barring those normal situations, I think Purdue wants to try to run as much as we possibly can. But, to run, you got to either get a turnover or a live ball turnover, or you got to try to get, secure that defensive rebound and then push and go. And that's certainly been some of the inconsistency we've had this year as far as whether we're creating turnovers at a high level has been hit or miss this year, and whether, we're rebounding on the defensive glass has been hit or miss. And against Houston, they're a team that does not turn the ball over very much at all. So creating those live ball turnovers is going to be a tough task. And then rebounding wise, they're a good rebounding team too. So can you secure those defensive rebounds when the misses happen? They're a team that does not shoot a lot around the rim. They shoot a lot of mid-range shots. And so if Purdue can get those boards, I would think getting out and running would be a huge piece of the equation because, like you said, going against Houston's set defense, having a high points per possession against that set defense is probably far-fetched, right? So, excuse me. So trying to get out in transition is paramount because Purdue can utilize Braden Smith, his elite ability to push the ball on the open floor and find shooters and Trey Coffin-Wren, get him some early post-ups maybe in transition before the defense gets set, before that double team, is ready to come over and harass him. So because Houston, even though they got those athletes down low, they don't have a lot of, elite size. There's no Vlad Golden down there, 7-footer. So I think Trey in one-on-one matchups could certainly have success against the front line of Houston. So if you could get him early post touches in transition, that would be beneficial. So if it got up in the 80s, I think that probably benefits Purdue. But, you're right. Can you eclipse that 70-point mark against this Houston defense? Probably got to start there first.
Bobby, last one from me. How much do you think Matt Painter is just enjoying this ride? I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but just embracing the moment. I know we talk so much about the players and what it means to them, but I'd imagine he doesn't take these moments for granted. So how have you seen him go about his business, and what's it like to see your former coach just still at it, all these years later?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun watching him go at it still. He's in the prime of his career, and he's done a heck of a job with this program to get him where they're at. This year, considering what they lost from last year's team, the two-time National Player of the Year, in particular, Zach Edey, and to lose your starting center after the first game of the season, Daniel Jacobson. I feel like what Coach Painters and the staff have done this year has been pretty remarkable. Finishing near the top of the Big Ten, tied for fourth, having a nice non-conference season, really tested ourselves this year with the schedule, and then now to get back to the Sweet 16, it's been a impressive job by Coach Painter and the staff this year, and I think he's definitely enjoying it. I'm guessing the success they had in the tournament last year, kind of getting some of those monkeys off our back, and Coach Painter's back in particular probably has been able to allow him to enjoy coaching even further because, that weight's not hanging over his shoulders anymore.
Bobby Riddell, Purdue Radio Network, former Purdue guard with us here, Payless Liquors Hotline. You remember anything about the last time we saw Matt Painter and Kelvin Sampson on the sidelines? It was a while ago, but you were certainly a member of those games. I think 3 times they faced off, Indiana and Purdue, back in the day.
Yeah, I was in uniform back then, so
you were playing. Come on now, we already went over your stats last time. Even though
very efficient.
Even though you thought you had what? You thought you had more. You were surprised how many free throws you had. That was it.
I was, yeah. Or maybe that was a sign I didn't make as many threes as I think I like to think that I made. That's wild to go back to that time. Kelvin Sampson, obviously had that Indiana program off on the right foot when he was there, and
it was like the first time both teams had been ranked in a while, Bobby, in the matchup.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of been the unfortunate thing a little bit with the Purdue IU matchup. It feels like, going all the way back to when I was a player, is when one team has been good, really good as far as like ranked top 15, top 10, it doesn't seem like the other one is up to snuff that year as far as being, nationally ranked from that standpoint. And from a rivalry standpoint, it would be great if both those programs could get back to that level. But I remember Eric Gordon, his freshman year. I think we had the Baby Boilers with Robbie Hummel and Etuan Moore, Juwan Johnson and company as freshmen. And that was the last time those two coaches squared off. That ranked matchup at Assembly Hall. We were extremely bummed. That was back when we were not necessarily always playing twice a year. My junior year, and we only played them once at Assembly Hall, and we lost a close game. Eric Gordon shot about 1 billion free throws. Not going to say that there was any calls, given to the Hoosiers that day in Assembly Hall. I mean, that would never happen, of course.
House of calls, right?
Yeah, the house of calls. But Gordon shot a lot of free throws, and they got the best of us. But we didn't get that return game in Mackey, which was a real bummer. And then the following year, my senior year, Tom Crean's first year as head coach, we only played him once at Mackey, which was unfortunate too, not getting a chance to go play them down in Assembly Hall that year. But Sampson and Painter, you thought that was maybe going to be a situation where there was going to be a long rivalry there between both those guys at Purdue and IU. Coach Painter was just a young coach at Purdue at that time, and Sampson, of course, was much younger as well. And as it turned out, things didn't go that way, and Sampson moved on from Indiana. But I do remember that game my sophomore year when we played them twice. We beat them at home, and then we lost at Assembly Hall. They absolutely throttled us in Assembly Hall that game that year, and they made like A.J. Ratliff and these guys were making threes from all over the floor. That was when first time I realized, like, holy cow, like what Assembly Hall was like when that place got rocking. And so I'll never forget that game. We pretty much had no answer for anything the Hoosiers were throwing at us that day. But fortunately, we were able to get that redemption later in the year when David Teague had such a good game in Mackey.
I had forgotten he had 32 until Matt brought it up earlier this week.
Yeah, he was one of those guys who could go on some big-time heaters. He was fun to play and practice with. He was a senior my sophomore year, so got to be around him for a couple of years. My freshman year was the year he hurt his knee, unfortunately, so he didn't play that season. But it really helped us because he came back as a fifth-year leader. That next year, Carl Lander also came back from knee injury, and then we had Chris Kramer and Keaton Grant come in as freshmen. And we were able to kind of put those pieces together to get Coach Painter's first team to make the NCAA tournament. And Teague was a massive part of that. He was such a fun player, kind of that 6'5", 6'6", two-way wing who could really shoot. put the ball on the floor a little bit, and he could defend on the wing at a high level too. By the end of the year, his knee was, really bothering him. I remember he was basically dragging one leg up and down the floor when we played Florida in the NCAA tournament that year, that great Florida team with Joakim Noah and Al Horford and company. But, he was a warrior, man. He was a heck of a player.
Well, Painter and Sampson back on the sideline coming up tonight, and on the call will be Rob Blackman and Bobby Riddell. Bobby, we've enjoyed the combos really all year long. Hopefully we got a few more in store coming up next week, but nonetheless, get some rest today and have an absolute blast calling this Sweet 16 game tonight.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we can preview an Elite Eight matchup. Well, I guess you guys won't be doing any sort of previewing over the weekend, but hopefully there is a Elite Eight matchup in store for the Boilers.
Talk to you from the Alamo Dome coming up next week.
Yeah,
How about
there
that?
you go.
There you go. Bobby Buckets right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. I do enjoy that they still go to San Antonio.
Yeah, I like that.
When I think of the Final Four, I do think of San Antonio.
Yeah,
For some reason, I think of Tampa and St. Pete. That floor stands out to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Where Indiana was? Where was the national title in 2002? Anybody?
You about to say you asking the wrong person.
Were you alive?
I was alive. I was 7 with no bills, and I was on time to school. So Kylan was probably a little happy about that. My parents forced me back then. I didn't have a choice. My tendency is to show up late for certain things that I wasn't very interested in.
That was Atlanta.
Started later. Was it Atlanta?
I'm glad you clarified that at 7 you weren't paying any bills.
Yeah, man. I'm just making sure.
You got some tax on your Pokemon cards.
Yeah, a little bit. My parents certainly. I mean, I kid you not. The day I graduated college, I think my family kicked me off the phone bill. They didn't even let your boy stay around.
They don't have time for you.
Not at all. I can't get anything from them anymore. I'm like, I don't get insurance. I don't get no phone bill. I don't get no subscriptions. Like, what are y'all good for? I come home and then I cook. I'm like, what the heck what is happening? So, I love them. But yeah, this weekend though should be exciting. Tonight should be exciting, and I do hope that we get a chance to talk to Bobby again because he is always just so nice. And I'm looking at his stats from college. His senior year, now
he doesn't give himself enough credit. He acts like
his senior year he was 64% from the floor, 61% from three, and 88% at the line. How about that for your shooting splits?
Yeah, he acts like he's strictly there.
Man, I get it. You didn't have like the super crazy college
but he's
career.
not just there to massage the baby boilers.
Yeah, but I'm like, look, you played at a high major basketball and you knocked down some shots, brother. So hats off to him. At 5'9", by the way.
I love it for downtown that we get this. I love it that it's these 4 programs as well. I feel
Should I go out?
Should
I go watch the game?
Oh, 1,000%.
Somewhere?
Yeah, from a hospitality standpoint, from a economic impact standpoint, I mean, this is a dream scenario what you've got here. And no matter what, the Sunday matchup is going to be, I mean, to be in the only football arena of the 4 sites, you're going to have that place absolutely filled. I haven't checked the secondary ticket market in the last couple days. We think it's
I feel like I got to check the secondary ticket market for to get into the bars tonight, I'm like, my goodness. Colin, am I going to see you out there?
Battle, man.
It's going to be a long night, but boiler up. Let's go.
All right. I like this energy. I might have to go give me a power nap and then head downtown for the pandemonium.
Island's ready to go here.
I'm with it.
I'm seeing in section 427, which I sat in, I think 420-something for
Is that
Butler,
like next to God?
Duke. No, so Lucas Oil, where we sit. So media-wise, we're in what, like 700?
Yeah.
There's 600.
Okay.
Sections.
I don't know. I've never been to a
Oil.
Lucas Oil game that wasn't.
I
wasn't
think
working.
like the 400 level ain't bad.
No, it's not too bad.
You want to guess the price right now?
Ooh,
Section
I'm gonna guess
427 per ticket.
Per ticket, I'm gonna go.
Just for tonight. Oh no, this is for all sessions. Sorry,
all
this
sessions?
is for 3 games.
For 3 games.
So tonight, obviously, you got the 2, and then Sunday as well.
2,200.
Oh man, no, we're not talking crazy talk like that. 788.
You said where? I'm sorry.
Section 427.
Oh, I'm sorry. He said 4. I don't know why in my mind I'm like, 127. I'm like, oh, you're like really, really close. Yeah, okay.
So 400 level, $788. This is for tonight and for Sunday. Just for tonight, if you were looking in that same area, section 428 is $610 a piece.
At that point, I feel like I would just pay the other one. if I want to see all the games. But that's
yeah,
a lot of money.
Hell, you could probably resell that for a decent price.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a lot of money.
Kyle, let's hit a morning check down here. All right, let's go back to the nation's capital. It was a historic night for the Indiana Pacers. Among the list of franchise records they sat, it was an NBA record, 162 points. Franchise record, 27 threes. The 48 assists were the second most in franchise history. They had 85 bench points. How is that not a franchise record? They're just saying season high for that. James, they had 100 points at the midway point of the third quarter.
Man, they were up 50 for a large portion of that game, and I thought Tyrese Halliburton set the tone early. I know you were saying you were kicking yourself for not betting that he would make the first shot.
So dumb of me.
Painful, but
so dumb.
He set the tone. I think it was actually a really good win for them beyond just the performance itself. It's like you got rest out of it. You didn't have to play your starters late. I mean, hell, you even beat them so bad that you didn't even get a lot of reps for your backups towards the end. You're holding the ball so much. So bounce back win for them. And like I tell you all, the basketball gods don't care, man. You know, they lose in a heartbreaker. They bounce back. And the Lakers go to Chicago and lose in epic fashion. So I would definitely like to be the Pacers this morning than the Lakers.
Who had a more depressing loss last night, the Lakers or Arkansas?
Arkansas, because of the moment.
Because it's the season ender.
Yeah, but it just how it happened, it's the Lakers 100%. I saw LeBron play the worst 30 seconds I've ever seen him play. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
And again, here in Indiana, we don't care.
No, celebrate that, frankly.
Yeah.
After that, Pacers off to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've won 6-7 in a row. They're typical Thunder. Granted, at some point you would think they start to rest. We'll see about that Saturday night, 8 o'clock. All right, again, getting you set for tonight, Kentucky and Tennessee at 7:39. Kentucky's trying to beat Tennessee for a third time this season. They will be the first team in college basketball history to have done that to a top 10 opponent on 3 separate occasions. So it will be quite the sea of blue and orange there at 7:39. The other region tonight will be Ole Miss and Michigan State coming up at 7:09. Auburn, Michigan. I've kind of forgotten. We could get a Michigan State Elite Eight.
Wouldn't that be something? I actually hadn't thought about that.
It's been such an SEC dominant focus that, like,
oh man, the trash talk that would emerge from a game like that.
That's a great. I mean, that region of Bruce Pearl, Dusty May, Chris Beard, Tom Izzo. That's a sneaky good region there in the Atlanta site. I assume that's a pretty appointment ticket when you think about it.
Absolutely. And can I give you a hot take? Not even hot.
Yeah, but score just Stephen A. Smith here on this Friday.
Oh, geez. Nah, I ain't going that far. You know, I won't be threatening to fight you, KB, on air or off air. But
thank you for clarifying that.
But Dusty, the nickname Dusty. I feel like Dusty May your nickname can't be Dusty until you got 60 years of life.
Dusty on the birth certificate?
Is it not? It can't be. Is that his real name?
I assumed it was.
I have to look this up now. I'm just assuming that was his nickname. If his real name is Dusty, that's even more hilarious. Yes, his actual name is Dusty Allen May.
I was going to say, I just figured that was
it on
the birth certificate.
Well, I should take it back, but I'm like, well, hold on. Why are you naming it? Can you imagine calling a 2-year-old Dusty?
Oh, I think it's great. I think
that's awesome.
I think it means you're going to be an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in many gyms, and I told you my funny story about him. We were in a tiny school in Gary. He was recruiting John L. Davis at 21st Century, and I was like, being honest, you are the only person, not of my complexion, up in this gym. Where are you from? And he's like, yeah, I'm from Florida Atlantic, here to recruit John L. Davis. I'm from Indiana. I was like, no reason you stood out at all, but he definitely was the only white person in that gym, and he was loving it. And it's crazy to see the journey he's had literally since then. I mean, the success of Florida Atlantic, going to Michigan, the success he's had there now, and then having the moment now to continue advancing in the NCAA tournament.
A heartbreak for John L. Davis last night in Arkansas. He had 30. He was tremendous, but end of game, Arkansas blows a 13-point lead in the final 4.5 minutes. They don't foul up 3. Texas Tech gets a 3 to force an overtime with about 10 seconds to go. And Arkansas, with John Calipari having timeouts, got off 2 very poor shots to end the game. So just brutal in the late one last night. And Duke outlasted Arizona. Great game. High-scoring affair. Cooper Flagg looked like the number 1 overall pick. Shout out to Caleb Love. I know he's had up-and-down moments in his career. I thought Love played pretty well for Arizona, but Cooper Flagg,
he is.
You can see why
sublime.
the Wizards are tanking.
Yeah, he's special player. I mean, wow.
All right, so on the other side, we'll get eventually to the pop quiz. We have some sound that Mark Dykton would enjoy that Kylan has dug up as well. Continue to get you set for the weekend that is coming up here. 93.5, 107.5, Fan Morning Show, rounded out on a Friday. A little bob of the head from James Boyd here as we come back. 9:31 on what was a rainy commute in this morning. Does sound like temperature-wise it will be outstanding, though, this weekend. Hopefully we are getting to spring. You know we have the worst holiday in the world coming up next week?
Whoa. What's next week? Right.
Is there a worse holiday than April Fool's?
I mean, not for me because I just don't.
There's nothing worse because you get duped like none other on Twitter
all
throughout it.
See, like for a true liar like me, I live for this.
So
I lie every day.
So if the Colts tweet out Andrew Luck is re-signed to play quarterback, how will you handle that?
I'll be fine because I know he ain't doing it. Have you seen Andrew? Have you ever heard Andrew Luck talk about his post-life after football? He ain't coming back. It's gone.
Well, he's dealing with a lot of drama out there at Stanford.
He
might want to come back and play football.
So are you like do you prank your kids at all?
No, I just think April Fool's is stupid.
I mean, I just don't believe anything anybody says that day. I mean, when I'm like
Which
10
is difficult
or 12,
to be a journalist, is it not?
No, because you shouldn't believe anything anybody says. There's a lot of people who put a lot of garbage.
One year, like Tiger Woods announced that he was like playing in the Masters on April 1st.
I do remember that. That was crazy.
Wait, is this real or not?
Yeah, that was a little crazy, but no, because there are certain moments where I'm like, is this April Fool's? Like when Shams did the Luka trade, I was like, this isn't real. That was April Fool's. So I mean, look out for my. Matter of fact, I'll put out some Colts news. No, I will never do that, but it doesn't bother me too much. I just walk around and put my head in the sand.
Did you like the Kelvin Sampson, a little bit of a comp to, he remembers his days at Team USA with Chris Paul and going up against J.J. Barea back in the U19 World Championships and seeing some Braden Smith vibes in those two?
Yes and no.
I kind of forget about Chris Paul. I mean, like, again, Chris Paul is the, like, poster child of what Braden Smith would want to be in the NBA. But, like, I think there's a misconception of like, oh, if you're under 6 feet, you can't play in the league. And it's like, well, Chris Paul was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but 99% of the time they're probably right. Like, there's not a lot of.
So you think
guards.
height is that like J.J. Barea's of the world? You think if you're under 6 feet, you're not playing?
Pretty much. I mean, people always talk about T.J. McConnell. T.J. McConnell isn't that small.
Yeah, T.J. McConnell's taller than I think people realize.
Yeah. So
and I also think Braden Smith is a little taller. At least he's longer. His arms are. I mean, hell, how many rebounds a game does he average? Like, Braden Smith, to me, plays bigger than whatever he's listed at.
That's fair. He's listed at 6 foot, which everyone always lies about that.
Do you have stats? How many rebounds does he average? I feel like he's a good rebounding guard.
Let's see. He is averaging this season 4.5 rebounds a game.
I mean, that's pretty good for a 6 foot guard.
His season stats are absurd. 16, 5, and 9, basically. Wow. Pretty impressive.
I think Purdue sent it out. He's the first player in NCAA history to reach like 1,200 points, 700 assists, and 500 boards.
Yeah.
Through 3 years.
I'm not saying he can't be a good pro and can't have a future in the NBA. It's just that, one, Chris Paul is probably a little bit bigger than him, even at his stature. And two, Chris Paul is one of the greatest players ever. But, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, obviously there's a big gap between Paul and Barea.
Yeah, but the jump that he made, though, Braden, that is, from last year to this year, which I figured he would improve, and he kind of had to because of the departure of Zach Edey. But, I mean, he's a better scorer than I probably thought he would ever be at the college level, which gives me hope for the future because he doesn't miss open shots. You leave that guy open from three, get it out the net.
Matt Painter and Purdue will be trying to do something they haven't done in a while here coming up tonight. Granted, they haven't been in many of these situations. They are trying to beat the better seed. We haven't seen Purdue do that in tournament games since certainly one of the greatest shooting displays we've ever seen. Ryan Klein in the Sweet 16 against Tennessee back in 2019. So, again, Purdue is the 4 seed trying to beat the 1 seed. That's what they will be trying to do. Here was Matt Painter earlier this week. A little bit more of the hunter than the hunted.
And if you look at Houston, like you could argue that they're the best team in the country, especially after their first 5 games. They lost their 3 of their 4 games early. The one thing that's so impressive about them is that they've had some injuries and they've had some foul trouble, and they don't skip a beat. They keep going. It's just a great program. He's a great coach.
I mean, he's not wrong.
They've won 28-29, and their 4 losses,
that's crazy.
3 of them are in overtime.
Yeah.
Now, having said all that, Gonzaga had a shot at the buzzer to send the game at OT. Not at the buzzer, but in the last 15 seconds.
Yeah. That's why I think the margin for error, which has been
and
smaller.
Houston shot it great against Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So, like, if Houston has one of these nights where, and again, they have shot it great all year. That's why I picked Houston to win it all. I just kind of look at it and think this is not even your older brother's Houston. This is a very gifted shooting team. But if they do have one of those, whatever, the dome impacts them a little bit, and Purdue's able to handle it a little bit better, I actually do think Purdue can keep this competitive.
They certainly can, but as Bobby Riddell was saying earlier, you got to stay attached to their shooters, and particularly the three guards that they have.
Probably haven't talked enough about Houston offense.
I mean, yeah, L.J. Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan, I'm sorry, and I'm looking at their three-point percentage. Cryer, 42.8%. Sharp, 42.3%. Uzan, 43.7%.
And that's their starting backcourt right there.
Yeah, like
those three.
Like those aren't like. I mean, if you're like 36% in college, you're a pretty good shooter. Probably a really good shooter for a college level. Like over 40% for three different players is elite. So this
there's
isn't
some good volume there. That's not like
exactly
just barely throwing up.
This isn't a he's streaky. Like no, if you leave those guys open, they will bury you. And so you definitely got to stay attached there. Hopefully they do miss some shots, and also on your side of the floor, you got to kind of offset some of that with shot making of your own. I know you threw out the 11 number, and I like that number, KB.
There's no way you're allowed to do this, right, ticket-wise. You can't get the losing fan walking out of Lucas Oil Stadium, ask them to send you the ticket, throw them $50 in cash, and walk in. They don't do pass-outs, right? I assume.
I don't think so, no.
From a scan standpoint?
Yeah, I think once you're in, it's pretty much what it is.
You're scanned in once. This isn't an IU football game where you can scan it out and scan it back in.
Nah. I wouldn't encourage anyone to try that because I don't want you to spend, your evening being arrested or something like that. If you can get in the right way, have fun with it. If not, it'll be jumping downtown and you might see your boy out there watching the games.
Man, I've also seen some stuff about ticket scams. Come on, guys. Please be smart out there.
Look at Kylan, the voice of reason. Yeah, seriously.
Mother Kylan over here.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, especially with certainly an appointment ticket coming up this weekend. Ryan Conwell into the transfer portal, the Pike product there. His career is what? South Florida, Indiana State, Xavier. Does he follow Sean Miller to Texas?
Possibly.
Darren DeVries, give him a call.
I just wonder with these players. I mean, I probably would try to, at least gauge his interest. I think it was, I forget who it was, but somebody threw out there, it was a Big Ten character. I'm blanking on his name right now, but it was like, when you transfer so much, what school are you most loyal to? Like, what school do you go back to and visit?
The school that paid you the most.
That's what I said. It was actually Raphael Davis, and he threw that out there. He was like, hey, when kids are transferring, it was kind of like the where's the loyalty vibe, but I was like, man.
Conwell, I would assume, will be a relatively big name on the portal. And
I would think so.
You would think Sean Miller would make a call in Texas. And
yeah.
Again, in all seriousness, I would say that Darren DeVries would have some interest. And if you can play hey, Ryan, you were great at Xavier, and that's 2 hours or an hour and a half away from home, and you were great at Xavier or great at Indiana State, and that was an hour away from home. Why not try the Bloomington thing? So
come on down.
I'll be interested to see.
It's always funny. Coaches want all this loyalty, and then once you enter a transfer portal and you have any ounce of talent, they're like, wait a second, I could use you. You're not as unloyal as I thought before. So to me, it always comes down to talent. If you're really good, nobody will care about that.
Matt Painter threw out the number yesterday of 1 to 2 portal additions for Purdue. I
like that. I mean, they're a different type of program where they don't necessarily need to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think we've heard Matt ever commit to that.
That's true, but
especially with the season still going on. So even with Purdue bringing back, I mean, they don't have to do that.
Right.
They bring back everybody besides Caleb first. So Purdue will
I do like that he doesn't complain too much about it, though.
No. I think he has always taken the approach of
gotta adapt to survive.
Yeah, amen. If you don't accept it, then you're going to be getting splinters on the old bench. All right, let's do it one final time here. We'll have a Jiffy Lube prize pack to give away. Freebie Friday, pop quiz, 317-239-1070. 13 hours away. We better have tipped off by 10:46. Dear Lord.
You're going to have Kevin Bowen down there at Gainbridge Fieldhouse with a pitchfork like, start the game. Start the game.
Gosh, I'm just trying to think. Do I go a third cup of coffee tonight?
I'm about to get the best sleep of my life after this show. Stories are filed this week. Show's over. I'm sleeping.
And that's one of those alarms that, like, you aren't setting.
No. I will get up probably, I'm so serious, I'll probably get up at like 4 o'clock and be like feeling like a new man.
Gosh, man, that is a life.
I'm ready.
My kids don't have school today. You want me to drop them off at your house? You know
what?
Hang out with them?
I will say, Uncle JB is a fun guy. Now, they might come back with like having, blue tongues from Slurpees and candy and popcorn.
Hey, as long as they're alive, brother.
But I mean, yeah, I my godkids love. They know when I'm around, we're doing something fun. I'm going to tire them out. They'll come back sleepy and tired, but yeah.
Now,
I'm
Eddie
down.
Garrison was just in here, and he wanted me to share this story. I'm afraid you guys are going to judge heavily. But is this a judge-free zone here?
No,
Kylan,
absolutely
James?
not. I judge all the time.
Oh, well, I was going to say it's judge-free.
Kylan was going to give me benefit of the doubt.
Nope.
Tough.
Everybody who says that is a liar. We're going to judge you.
Let's get JB out. Let's kick him out of the studio real quick, and then.
All right.
So the other night, a couple moody Bowen children. I get the bath temperature to what I think is just a pristine temp, like perfect. I'm like, okay, this is great water. Kids are going to be happy, blah, blah, blah. Max gets into said bath, and all of a sudden, Max looks at me, and I know that look.
Oh, no.
And he's about to pee.
Oh.
So what do? That is literally what I uttered. Thank you, Kylan, for that. So Max is about to pee, and, there was a bit of a fight or flight mode for me there, okay? So I thought to myself.
Fight your kid? I'm joking.
Here we go. He's going to ruin the water. And if he ruins the water, his sister is not recovering from that in a very efficient manner. She's not going to like it at all.
Are they is she like after him?
No. They bathe together.
I didn't know. I thought he was in there by himself.
No. Well, he is. He's the first one in there, and then she's about to get in with him.
Oh, no, come on, Max.
And so he's got that look. And, not to get too graphic, and, maybe you guys will be there at one point in your lives. Max's pee at this young age, it's about a tablespoon. He's not sitting there a Kentucky fan inside of the Slippery Noodle after about 6 beers tonight before walking over to, hanging on the urinal. So I decide to throw the hands out there. I decide to catch the pee.
Whoa. I don't love.
Cup the hands. Catch the pee.
You said a judge-free zone?
Kylan is horrified.
You can't.
The look on Kylan's face is horrifying.
Kylan, you stay on that side. I said I would judge from the start.
As I tell the story, we got some Lysol wipes. I will continue to wipe my hands.
What?
I decide to catch it. I say it's better to save the water and the look on his sister's face than it is to have to start the bath all over again.
I'd agree.
Okay? So now you're coming around on this. So I catch the pee. It was probably more a teaspoon than it was a tablespoon. I then take the pee with the cupped hands over to the toilet, put the urine in there, and wash my hands for 5 minutes. And the bath is saved, and we have 2 happy and clean children 10 minutes later.
You know what it is?
Judge or join? Judge or join?
I'm judging now because I'm childless, but this is how I know you love your kids, because only love could compel you to do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Love. Literally, that's the only thing. So I'm looking forward to one day thinking of solving a situation like that, KB, but I'm hoping that day ain't no time soon.
Man, what a parent move. I think my face was more so, not judgment, but I didn't think you were bold. I didn't think you were that bold to just, let's go for it.
Fight or flight, Kylan. I mean,
Wild.
I had to do it.
I learned something new about KB.
I mean, all I'm saying is
we don't do a lot of handshakes pre-show anyways. I can assure you that I have washed these hands thoroughly. Thoroughly.
Oh, my God.
Don't they say pee's sterile anyways?
I feel like I got like the what's the little meme? The guy's looking at his hands like.
Hell of a transition here to our Freebie Friday pop quiz. I scanned the pop quiz. I think it's a joke.
Well, look, you have no room to judge right now. Okay, it's a judge-free zone.
Nick goes, "How do you catch the pee? Isn't there a cup or a rinser clothes?" I mean, there was a cup, but I used that cup to wash them. You know, so
but
then
couldn't you wash the cup out? Like, just how you wash your
then I
hands?
got to go downstairs, and Max is already in the bath, and he's going to play with his dinosaurs
You
in
sound
there.
like Charles Barkley when he said he washed his uniform by, like, wearing it in the shower.
That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. James Boyd, give us a number 1 through 8 for the pop quiz.
I'm going to go 4 for Purdue seeding the tournament.
4 for the teaspoons of urine of Max Bowen. Who do we got, Kylan?
That means we got Austin on the line.
Austin, what's up, man?
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Austin, you judging me or you joining?
I can certainly understand it. I've got 3 girls, so I can't say I've been in that predicament, but I certainly understand is all I can say.
Gosh, and he's just such a little you-know-what. He cracked that wry smile. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I could hear his daughter, I could hear his sister just all of a sudden
mortified,
yelping in the backfield. Austin, the ages of your girls?
9, 8, and 4.
Okay, 9 and 8. What do I have to look forward to? I've got 4.5 that will be 5 in June.
Well, you talk about the moodiness. That's all I can say.
Okay.
It comes in waves, but they're still great.
Yeah. I love her so much, but boy, yeah. You and I could probably have a drink or two about that, Austin. Freebie Friday,
Absolutely.
Jiffy Lube oil change is coming your way no matter what happens, and I think it's doable. James Boyd, throw number 1 at Austin.
All right. First question. The Pacers scored 162 points in last night's win in Washington. Who was the Pacers' head coach the last time they scored 162 points or more in a game? Was it Slick Leonard? Boom, baby. Larry Staverman, Jack McKinney, or Jack Ramsey?
Let's go with Dr. Jack.
All right. On to number 2.
How about a boom, baby? How about a turn out the lights?
Okay. Oh, Slick.
Okay, all right.
Slick there.
I never know if KB wants to be like gracious or not. I'm like, do I move on? Do I not?
Did you hear the man describe? You know, he's got a lot he's dealing with right now here, Austin.
Not as much as you.
Thank you here from E Green IU on Twitter. Moise Salou could have lent a hand. Scotty, did he pee before every at-bat on his hands? Was that what is true? Tyrese Halliburton, Austin led all scores with 29 last night, and the only other player in the game to have 20 or more points. I was impressed by this guy. A, Jarris Walker, B, Jordan Poole, C, Miles Turner, D, Alex Sarr.
In the game or for the Pacers?
In the game. Number 2 pick, right?
Yes, number 2 pick.
Yeah. Walker, Poole, Turner, or Sarr?
Who was it, Sarr?
All right.
Yeah,
We're rocking and rolling. Number 3, Josh Giddey hit a 47-foot shot at the buzzer to give the Bulls a 119-117 win over the Lakers last night in Chicago. Which of the following did not happen in that game? The Bulls tied the record for most made three-pointers in the fourth quarter in NBA history with 11. LeBron James tied the game with a layup with 3.1 seconds left. Giddey's game winner was the longest game-winning buzzer beater in Bulls franchise history. Or D, Giddey became the first Bulls player to hit a buzzer beater and record a triple-double in the same game. So what did not happen?
It was Reed that hit the.
Yeah. Oh, that's a guy who doesn't like 23. I'm with you. KB, you're up.
Did he go with B?
Yes.
Okay, number
Yes,
4 here.
LeBron.
Purdue faces Houston tonight at Lucas Oil. Kaufman ran 19 20-point games this season, the second most among players still alive in the tournament. Who has more 20-point games this season? Cooper Flagg, Janai Broom, Mark Sears, or JT, who is not Obi Toppin's brother?
Who lit it up last night for Alabama?
Oh, man. James Boyd, you want to carry him across the street? You want to catch Austin's pee yourself here? I mean, geez.
Yeah, it's Mark Sears.
Hey, look, I mean,
Scotty, I usually cut off the hints after 1 or 2. Scotty's going to come over here and jump James Boyd here.
I'm sorry.
Now, this is a freebie Friday.
Boy. All right, James, throw number 5. We got to be a little quick here.
Baltimore's Tyler O'Neill extended his MLB record by homering on his 6th straight opening day. The Phillies' Bryce Harper also hit the 6th opening day home run of his career yesterday. There are 3 players with 8 opening day homers in their careers, which is the major league record. Which of the following does not have 8 career homers on MLB opening day? Babe Ruth, Adam Dunn, Frank Robinson, or Ken Griffey Jr.? So not having 8 on opening day home runs.
Frank Robinson.
All right.
All right, let's see how Austin did here. A little hand-holding. Slick Leonard was right for number 1. Alex Sarr's got some skill, man. He had 22 last night. That was correct. LeBron James B was also correct for number 3. Mark Sears, 10 threes last night. James Boyd, we had a 4 for 4. And eventually you finally behaved and did not totally carry Austin across the street. Number 5 was what? Or who, I should say.
Babe Ruth was the answer.
Baby Ruth for number 5. Austin, stay on the line. James Boyd, your keys for the Boilers tonight.
Well, 1, don't make Scotty mad. Sorry about that, Scotty. And then 2,
I thought he went middle finger across the
there you
studio.
go. And then, in all seriousness, just the bench. Can you get other guys to step up beyond Trey Kaufman, and Braden Smith?
I would be surprised if Purdue gets run out of the gym. I think they're going to keep this competitive. I think they've got the ability to throw little double-digit threes at them. Can they make the right plays out of the post when they are doubled? We'll get you set for it all day long right here on The Fan. Everybody have a great, great weekend.